Chapter 118. Yuji covered her mouth and giggled again. She helped Meng Yan up and said, "General, don't be anxious. Since Mr. has asked, I'm afraid it has something to do with what we need help with." "Mister, do you think I'm right?" The last sentence was directed at Yu Qianqiu. Tsk tisk. Yu Qianqiu shook his head regretfully. He gave a thumbs up and praised, "Madam is really smart. I can't hide anything from you." "That's right. The small favor that I need, General, and Madam's help has something to do with these people." Yuji looked ashamed. Meng Yan, on the other hand, was quite proud. To him, there was no difference between praising his wife and praising himself. He nodded and said, "How do you want me to help?" "Just say it, mister." "Hee hee." Yu Qianqiu gnashed his teeth and said, "When we first arrived at Fey Sinister Realm, those fellows clearly knew that there was danger, but they didn't warn us. Not only did they not warn us, but they actually ignored our friendship and left us behind. Fortunately, we encountered the great general, otherwise. In short, I really can't swallow this anger." Tsk. Meng Yan laughed and said, "So it's a group of selfish people who abandoned their friends and ran away. Very good. This general will definitely help you. What does Mr. want?" He was a seasoned soldier, and the thing he hated the most was people who abandoned their comrades and fled in the face of battle. Yu Qianqiu said in a deep voice, "General, please help me capture every single one of them. It's best if they're all alive. I want to do it myself and let them taste the feeling of living a life worse than death." "That's right, General. It's best to find a big tent and lock them up. It's really inconvenient to let the disciples outside see what we're doing. Otherwise, I won't be able to explain myself when I return." "Haha." Meng Yan laughed heartily. He gave Yu Qianqiu a look as if he knew him very well. He then dragged his golden armor and walked out of the tent in big strides. "Mister." Yu Qianqiu was just about to follow Meng Yan out when he heard Yuji calling him. He turned around and asked, "What's the matter, madam?" The latter didn't say a word. When she walked past him, she pursed her lips into a smile and walked out of the tent, as if saying, "I know what you're planning." This caused Yu Qianqiu to be filled with rage. "Damn it! Forget it if you think you can pinch. What I hate the most is this kind of pretentious, self-righteous dog that doesn't eat shit." When he walked out of the tent, he happened to see Ghost General Meng Yan wave his hand, and dozens of riders led a group of people out of the camp. When he saw Yu Qianqiu, he only nodded slightly. He swayed and returned to the crowd standing at the foot of the stage. He ignored the questioning gazes from the disciples and closed his eyes to rest. Before long, the sounds of fighting suddenly appeared in the surroundings. At the top of the mountain, the expressions of the leading elders of the 6 great sects darkened. The scattered divine sense spots on the 6 divine sense compasses moved almost at the same time. There was no doubt that they were being attacked by an organized group, or else this would not have happened. At this moment, who else could organize an attack against hundreds of disciples from the various sects but Ghost General? "Dongfang Chang'ao, what do you mean?" Qiu Wu Yuan asked for his opinion with a gloomy expression. Here, his 10,000 demons and supporting Immortal Island were undoubtedly the absolute leaders of the righteous and evil sections. Their opinions were basically the opinions of the 3 sections. Dongfang Chang'ao frowned. Although many disciples from the various sects would die every time they came here, it was also for the future development of the sections. If all of them died here, it would shock the 6 great sections. At the very least, they would have to consider whether they could use this method of training disciples again in the future. Seeing that he did not speak, Qiu Wu Yuan said in a deep voice, "I suggest that everyone go down the mountain and save the disciples of the 6 sections. Save as many as you can." Everyone stared at Dongfang Chang'ao. As long as he agreed, the righteous and evil sects would have reached an agreement. Dongfang Chang'ao frowned. "Even if we go down, can we save them? I need to consult the sect before making a decision." Qiu Wu Yuan sneered. "Consult the sect? By the time your supporting Immortal Island sends people here, it will be too late. By then, they won't be saving people, but collecting corpses. But it makes sense. Your supporting Immortal Island is rich and has many powerful people. A few disciples dying is nothing." Elder Quan of supporting Immortal Island could not take it anymore. He immediately shouted, "Qiu Wu Yuan, are you looking for trouble?" Qiu Wu Yuan glanced at him coldly and said with disdain, "Who do you think you are? Since when did supporting a mortal island have the right to speak? Once he said that, the other elders of supporting a mortal island immediately surrounded him and cheered him on. Once supporting a mortal island made a move, the 10,000 demons did not want to be outdone. The elders also surrounded him. As a result, the other 4 sects helped their own sides. The righteous and evil sects instantly stood against each other. Qiu Wu Yuan. Dongfeng Chang'ao glared at him. His white hair and beard moved even though there was no wind. He said coldly, supporting a mortal island's cultivation pavilion has never been afraid of anyone. If you want to cause trouble, look at the situation now. After this matter is over, I will welcome you at any time. He immediately shouted at the elders, help me send a message. The elders unwillingly retreated and surrounded him, placing their palms on his body. Dongfeng Chang'ao raised a jade stone and infused the power of 10 people into it. Instantly, the jade stone gave off a dazzling white light. After muttering a few incantations, the jade stone turned into dust with a pa sound. Everyone from the various sects secretly sucked in a breath of cold air. Even Qiu Wu Yuan's brows couldn't help but twitch. An ordinary voice transmission could be done as long as one's cultivation had reached the Tribulation passing stage. However, a voice transmission that was thousands of miles away wasn't something that could be done by just gathering a few people. It required the combined strength of a few people to reach the Tribulation passing stage. The other sects questioned themselves. They didn't have the ability to do so, including the 10,000 demons. After the people of supporting a mortal island dispersed, they acted like it was no big deal. This shocked the other sects even more. Dongfeng Chang'ao nodded at everyone and said, the message has been sent to my Heaven Heart Pavilion. Later there will be. He suddenly paused and closed his eyes to focus. After a while, he opened his eyes and looked at everyone. My Heaven Heart Pavilion has sent a decree from the sect master. Disciples of supporting a mortal island, please be calm and don't act rashly. Heaven Heart Pavilion has sent 6 final stage crossing tribulation stage experts to come here at top speed. The 9 elders of supporting a mortal island were delighted. They bowed and said, we will follow the sect master's decree. The elders of the other sects looked at each other in dismay. As expected of the supporting a mortal island, it was worthy of being the #1 sect in the world. Just a casual move was enough to send out 6 consecrators at the final stage of the crossing of tribulations. Qiu Wu Yuan snorted coldly and didn't say anything. After all, it was unrealistic to rely on the 3 demonic sects to go down the mountain and rescue people without the help of the righteous sections. Moreover, 6 of the supporting Immortal Islands consecrators were coming here at top speed. With their cultivation, they would arrive very soon. Not good. Everyone, look. A Daluo sect elder pointed at the divine sense compass and shouted. Everyone couldn't be bothered with the small conflict that had just happened. They gathered together to watch. The disciples of the various sects who were hiding in the surroundings gathered together. Moreover, the divine sense light spots were dimmer. It was obvious that they were all injured. Ghost General is so powerful. He actually captured all of them. Dongfeng Chang'ao. Qiu Wu Yuan retracted his gaze from the divine sense compass. He raised his head and sneered. Now, all the sects are counting on the 6 consecrators of supporting Immortal Island. I hope they will arrive soon. Otherwise, we will have to collect their corpses. Chapter 119. One by one, the disciples of the 6 sects were escorted into the military camp by the ghost soldiers and generals. They staggered as they walked, and all of them had injuries on their bodies. They looked dispirited, and there were close to 400 of them. The disciples who took the initiative to visit looked at the seniors who were captured with different expressions. It was hard to tell if they were gloating or pitying them. They could only watch as they were locked up in a few big tents. As for what would happen next, no one knew. After Yu Chencho's gaze found his old enemy in the crowd, he retracted it without stopping. He wiped away the smile on his face and turned to the crowd, shaking his head and sighing. Sigh. If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have done it in the first place. I'll go and beg the general to let them off. As he spoke, he staggered towards the central tent. Not a single ghost soldier or general stopped him. Actually, none of the disciples of the 6 sects wanted him to plead for them. However, they could only keep their thoughts to themselves and not say it out loud. When Meng Yan saw Yu Chencho enter, he chuckled. Everyone's dantian is sealed, and they can't fight back. Mister, if you have something to do, you can go and do your own thing. No one will disturb you. Yu Qianqiu chuckled and cupped his hands to thank him. He turned around and walked out. He came to a big tent where the disciples of the 6 sects were locked up and looked around. As expected, he didn't see any of Meng Yan's subordinates. The people who were locked up lifted their heads weakly and were shocked when they saw the person who came. Some of them had even met Yu Qianqiu at the peak of the mountain. How could this disciple of Fuxian Island come and go as he pleased? Yu Qianqiu couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense, and there was no need for him to. After contacting Bai Suzhen in Utopia, he immediately made his move, and the people he touched disappeared one by one. He clapped his hands and looked around at the empty tent. Expressionlessly, he went to the next tent and did the same thing. Finally, he entered the tent where Yan Shu was locked in. Under the latter's terrified gaze, he cleared everyone around him and stood in front of him. He rolled up his sleeves and smiled. Marshal Uncle Yan, I finally get to see you. I've been waiting for this day for a long time. Sigh. I can finally resolve one of my worries. Yan Shu was inexplicably terrified. He staggered backwards. Yu Qianqiu, what are you doing? Pah! Yu Qianqiu walked over and gave him a heavy slap, causing him to fall to the ground. He then jumped up and stomped on Yan Shu, cursing. Fuck! Do you think you can call my name so casually? Yan Shu howled as he crawled everywhere. His dantian was now sealed, and his body was only slightly better than a normal person's. How could he endure the punches and kicks of Yu Qianqiu chasing after him? His nose and mouth were bleeding non-stop. After a while, Yu Qianqiu straightened his back and let out a deep breath. It feels so good to beat my enemy. Fuck, I haven't felt so good in a long time. He stretched his chest, clenched his fists, and loosened his muscles. He rolled up his fallen sleeves again. This time, he rolled them up high to prevent them from falling again. He walked over to Yan Shu, who was hiding under the long table, and gave him a slap. Then he smiled. Now you know what I'm going to do, right? Based on our good relationship, what do you think I'm going to do? Of course, I'm going to F***ck you. Yan Shu, who had been beaten out of shape, had blood all over his face. He mumbled, Yu Qianqiu, if you dare to treat me like this, my father won't let you go. Hee hee. What AF** king genius. Yu Qianqiu sneered. You idiot, who won't let who go? You're already in your 70s or 80s, yet you still bring up your old bastard father to scare people. You better think about what last words you want me to pass on to your father. With a paw sound, Yan Shu's nose was smashed flat. Blood splattered everywhere. Yu Qianqiu's blood-stained hands became even more bloody. Quick, call me father. Maybe I'll let you go if I'm in a good mood. Yu Qianqiu pulled his blood-stained clothes and shouted. Then he slapped Yan Shu again and shouted, Bastard, why are you pretending to be dead? Call me father now. Huff, huff. Yan Shu, who could no longer breathe through his nose, could only use his mouth to breathe. His teeth had all fallen off. He desperately raised his head that was hanging to one side. Suddenly, with a pu sound, he spat a mouthful of blood on Yu Qianqiu's face. You're courting death. Yu Qianqiu roared. With a ya sound, he pulled Yan Shu's head and gave him a heavy punch. The latter's head made a crisp sound and drooped on his back. He was no longer breathing. Yu Qianqiu, who was in a rage, did not notice that he was already dead. He pressed Yan Shu to the ground unwillingly and punched him until his head was smashed into pieces. Only then did he stand up. He raised his arm to wipe the blood off his face. His sleeve was instantly dyed red. His blood-stained face looked a little ferocious. He looked at the corpse on the ground and murmured, I think Chen Feng said that human skin is a good material for making high-class talismans. I can't waste it. He lifted his leg and the corpse disappeared without a trace. A pool of blood was left on the ground. He did not see his current image. He put down his sleeves and patted his clothes. Instead, he walked out of the tent as if nothing had happened. He walked towards the main tent. As soon as he entered, he found Meng Yan and Yu Ji staring at him blankly. He had also come to his senses now. Just now, he was immersed in the pleasure of killing his enemy with his own hands. He was in high spirits and did not care about the blood on his body at all. Yu Qianqiu smiled embarrassedly. I really did it by accident. Did it by accident? Did he accidentally get it all over his body? What did this guy do to those people? Meng Yan and Yu Ji exchanged glances. After the former asked someone to bring him to take a bath, the couple went to the 3 big tents together. They were all empty except for one of the big tents that was covered with blood. Where were the people? Where did they go? They also called the ghost soldiers outside to ask. They all said that they did not see any prisoners coming out. They only heard screams coming from inside. The 2 of them looked at each other in dismay. They knew that there were some cultivators in this world who would cultivate some demonic arts and evil techniques. However, in such a short period of time, nearly 400 people were turned into nothingness. It was a little too terrifying. Just thinking about it made the 2 of them shudder. This kid was a little evil. After taking a bath, Yu Qianqiu felt comfortable all over. Moreover, he had killed Yan Shu. He felt refreshed. He took out a set of clothes from his storage bag and put them on. Then, he returned to the main tent. He took a few steps forward and cupped his hands in greeting to the couple sitting behind the main table. "Thank you, great general and madam, for letting me vent my anger." "You're welcome, mister." Meng Yan raised his hand and gestured for him to sit down. He smiled and said, "It's fate that I can meet you today. Unfortunately. Sigh. The sky is getting brighter. It's not convenient for me to ask you to stay." Yu Qianqiu also knew that no matter how powerful Meng Yan and the others were, they would not dare to come out in broad daylight. This was the restriction of the laws of heaven and earth. Otherwise, their souls would definitely be destroyed. He nodded and asked, "Is General going to break camp?" "Yes." Meng Yan raised his hand and pointed to the south. He said, 8,000 miles to the south, there is a canyon called Valley of Een Wind. It is my headquarters. Mister, if you have time, please come and visit." "Thank you, great general. If that's the case, I'll take my leave. I'll definitely pay you a visit another day." Yu Qianqiu stood up and said. Now was not the time to talk. If he stayed any longer, he would only bring trouble to them. The laws of heaven and earth were merciless. "Please." Meng Yan raised his hand. Then, he and Yu Ji saw him off. Below the stage, Yu Qianqiu once again turned around to thank the 2 of them. Then, he quickly led the disciples of the 6 sects out of the camp. "Break camp." With a command, everyone in the camp started to move. Not long after, they were ready. The army from the world of spirits and souls disappeared in front of the disciples of the 6 sections. Those disciples from the other sects who were captured were also nowhere to be seen. Yu Qianqiu looked back at the crowd and smiled bitterly. Those seniors didn't show up in an hour, which angered the ghost general. It was useless no matter how much I tried. In the end they all sigh. The crowd was already very grateful to him for surviving the disaster. Moreover, they were not interested in those seniors from the other sections. Hence, they all comforted him and advised him not to blame himself. Chapter 120. Yu Qianqiu looked at everyone with a bleak expression. He kept shaking his head and blaming himself, but he was complaining in his heart. He wanted to ask the ghost general to help him take these people away, but he still had many things to rely on Fuxian Island to do. Moreover, the old farts on the mountain had a *T divine sense compass. If he went back alone, he would definitely arouse suspicion. However, there were benefits to keeping these people. At least it could prove that the hundreds of disciples from various sects had nothing to do with him. Forget it. It was not bad to get a group of nascent soul and core formation stage cultivators. At least they were stronger than these people who were mostly in the foundation establishment stage. It would save him more energy to help them improve their cultivation. He could think about the rest later. "Everyone, brothers and sisters from various sects, please listen to me." Yu Qianqiu seemed to have thought it through instantly. He shouted to everyone, "Everyone disperse. It's only been a day. There's still a long way to go. Everyone, take care." After that, he waved at Ko Shuahua, the girls, and Gu Qingyun. "Let's go." They nodded and followed him into the depths of the demon ghost region. After walking for a short while, they realized that something was wrong. They looked back and saw a group of female disciples from the Moon Clan not far behind them. Behind them were disciples from various sections. They were following them at a distance that was neither too close nor too far away. It was the first time these people came to the demon ghost region. As for those who had experience, they were all taken into Utopia by Yu Qianqiu. Hearing that they were going to disperse, they immediately felt that something was missing. The demon ghost region before the sky was completely dark looked gloomy and terrifying. Everyone didn't know where to go. The disciples of the Moon Clan were all women. Subconsciously, they followed Yu Qianqiu, who they thought was strong. After all, Yu Qianqiu's performance that night was too strong. He wasn't even afraid of the ghost general. It should be much safer to follow him. After all, women naturally like to follow men who gave them a sense of security. After this night, Yu Qianqiu seemed to have become the backbone of the disciples of the various sections. The disciples of the various sects already wanted to follow. At first, they were still hesitating. Seeing that the Moon Clan was following, they naturally followed suit. Just like that, everyone followed from a distance. Yu Qianqiu was stunned. "Why are you following us?" The disciples of the various sects gathered together again and suddenly felt very safe. No one answered him. After a while, a female disciple of the Moon Clan pouted and said, "The demon ghost region is so big. How can you say that we will follow you? We can go whichever way we want. How could it be so coincidental?" Yu Qianqiu thought about it for a bit and understood. They were afraid. However, it felt good to be able to be relied on by others. If you were afraid, just say it. But this girl was still so stubborn. Yu Qianqiu smiled slightly and wanted to tease them. He nodded and said, "So it was us who blocked your way." Then, he smiled at Gu Qingyun and the others. "Let's make way. Let the sisters of the Moon Clan go first." They smiled and made way for him. The female disciples of the Moon Clan were instantly embarrassed. They didn't know whether to leave or stay. In the end, the stubborn female disciple said to a slightly older girl beside her, "Senior sister, let's go. Otherwise, people will look down on the Moon Clan." Then, she was about to pull her forward. The senior sister stopped her and said, "Don't talk nonsense. The Moon Clan has always been on good terms with Fuxian Island." She turned around and bowed to Yu Qianqiu. Lan Xinyue, the 19th generation disciple of the Moon Clan, greets senior brother Yu. "Don't mention it." Yu Qianqiu cupped his hands casually and said, although she was pretty, there were many beautiful girls in the cultivation world. If they weren't outstanding, there was nothing special about them. Lan Xinyue smiled and said, "Senior brother Yu, you are very talented. Please don't mind my junior sister. We have just entered the demon region and we are in a precarious situation. If you have any good suggestions, please enlighten us." Those words are pleasing to the ear. Yu Qianqiu nodded, then turned to the stubborn woman and roared fiercely, "Girl, if you have nothing better to do, learn from your eldest senior sister. If you speak nonsense again in the future, you'll suffer greatly sooner or later." "You!" The female disciple was about to fight back but was dragged back by her peers. Yu Qianqiu didn't want to talk to her anymore. He cupped his hands at the disciples and said, "It was pure coincidence that we met the ghost general when he was out on patrol. I don't think something like this will happen again. The sky is about to brighten. It will be the world of all kinds of demons soon. We will be too big a target if we stay together. It will be safer if we disperse. It will be best if we find a place where no one can find us. In fact, I am also in a precarious situation. I can't solve it by playing the guqin with any demon. It is also dangerous for you to follow me. Take care of yourselves." That was all. No matter if they listened to him or not, he couldn't lead them around the demon region. So what if he protected them? They would go their separate ways after they left the demon region. How many people would remember him? It was the world of cultivation. That was it. "Let's go." Yu Qianqiu disappeared in front of everyone with his companions. Everyone thought about it and felt that what he said made sense. Instantly, it became lively, and a new round of forming teams and groups began. The elders of the 6 major sects on the mountain peak looked very gloomy. From the divine sense compass, they could see that the light spots of the captured disciples had all disappeared. According to common sense, this meant that they were all dead. What a heavy loss. There was no doubt that these disciples were the elites of the various sections. What was strange was that the disciples who had gathered together seemed to be fine. Now they had scattered. Whoosh! A few sharp sounds of fast flying came from afar. When everyone looked up, they found that there were 6 elders on the mountain peak. The one in the lead was Ma Jiugu, who was holding a walking stick. Obviously, the 6 elders of the supporting immortal island had arrived. The elders of the various sects were secretly shocked. As expected of an expert at the late stage of the crossing tribulation, they traveled thousands of kilometers in just a few hours. Moreover, they were flying in the sky without any support. What a profound cultivation and fast speed! Dongfang Chang'eo was also shocked. How come even the oldest Ma Jiugu of the supporting immortal island had come? He quickly led the other 9 elders to salute and said, "Greetings, Jiugu, greetings, 6 elders." The other sects, regardless of whether it was the righteous or evil Tao, went over to greet them. In any case, their age and cultivation were there. Ma Jiugu gently poked him with her walking stick and said in a deep voice, "Chang'eo, tell me what happened." Dongfang Chang'eo nodded and immediately explained the ins and outs of the matter. After listening, Ma Jiugu said in a deep voice, "There's no time to lose. The 6 sects will split up to save people. I will stay with the supporting immortal island. The 5 of you will go to one sect each and save as many as you can." The 5 elders and 5 elders behind her agreed. At this moment, even the bad-tempered Qiu Wu Yuan didn't dare to act recklessly in front of these people. Chapter 121. It was already dawn, but the search for the disciples of the various sects went quite smoothly. With the divine sense compass as a guide, the small demons they encountered along the way could not stop the footsteps of dozens of crossing calamity stage cultivators. The disciples were found one by one and escorted by several elders to the mountain top's large array. On the way, many disciples were saved when confronting the evildoers. The disciples of the various sects who returned to the mountain top rejoiced. They knew that the trial this time would probably end prematurely. Good stuff, good stuff. This demon domain is really a good place. Yu Qianchou held a strand of strange-looking grass that had just been dug out and laughed wildly. Not far away, Ko Shuahua was holding a bloody sword in her hand. She was panting and staring at him with a face full of resentment. Not far away, there was a dead python lying on the ground. "Senior brother Yu, aren't we running a little too far?" Gu Qingyun sized up the surroundings, and the more he walked, the more apprehensive he became. Yu Qianchou had purposely chosen to walk through the dangerous terrain, and he had already walked for a very long distance. When he saw some unknown flowers and grass, they jumped faster than rabbits, and he ran over to dig them up. Fortunately, there was Ko Shuahua, who was at the nascent soul stage, among them. When they encountered danger on the way, they had to rely on her to solve it. However, Yu Qianchou was still unrepentant. The dangers of demon domain were nothing in his eyes, but the flowers and plants seemed to be his lifeblood. Even the other girls were infected by his emotions. It seemed that demon domain was really nothing. When they saw flowers and plants that they had never seen before, they didn't forget to cheer and remind him. Yu Qianchou threw the things in his hand into the storage bag and patted Gu Qingyun's shoulder with a smile. "Gu Qingyun, how many times have I told you? From today on, you have to call me boss, not senior brother. Although my cultivation is a little higher than yours, I don't like it. Don't forget what you said before. As long as you can leave demon domain alive, you will be mine." We all heard it. We can testify. Xiao Wanqing and the other 2 girls chuckled along. The 3 of them had a great time following Yu Qianchou, but they didn't know that Ko Shuahua, who had been in danger along the way, had suffered. They only knew how to cheer for Ko Shuahua. Gu Qingyun smiled bitterly. Yu Qianchou never forgot to remind him of that matter, and it seemed like he really took it seriously. What should he say? And he was also more rational than the 3 girls. They hadn't met any powerful demons yet, so Ko Shuahua could still deal with them. But if Yu Qianchou continued to act like this, sooner or later, he would cause a disaster. But what could he do about the other party's current prestige being too high? All the girls listened to his words, while his words carried little weight and he was alone. Ayaya! Yu Qianchou suddenly pointed at a mountain not far away that was shrouded in mist. He sighed and said, "Mist of spiritual qi, wind blowing endlessly. What a place with abundant spiritual qi. There must be something unusual over there. Let's go and take a look." "No. There's something wrong in front. I'm afraid there's some powerful demon." Ko Shuahua suddenly stopped him. She pulled a strand of hair that was messed up because of the fight to the back of her ear. Her eyes stared at the place that Yu Qianqiu pointed out. Compared to the surroundings, there were rare tall trees and dense forests. Furthermore, there was no sound at all. She had already noticed that place. Based on her intuition, it must be very dangerous. Gu Qingyun also felt that something was wrong. Along the way, they could hear some strange and terrifying cries. Why was there no sound at all when they got close? It was too quiet. He couldn't help but nod and said, "Grandmaster Ko is right. Senior Marshal Brother Yu, let's take a detour." As for boss, he still couldn't bring himself to call him. "No need. Leave everything to me. I'll make sure you'll be fine," Yu Qianqiu said and took the lead. The three girls exchanged glances. Someone had veto power. His objection was invalid. Thus, they happily followed him. Blind worship. Ko Xuehua and Gu Qingyun looked at each other and shook their heads with a bitter smile. They had no choice but to follow him. The mountains were empty, and the trees were tall and dense. The vegetation was full of vitality. After passing through a dense forest, they stopped at the foot of a mountain that wasn't too high. The top of the mountain was shrouded by the mist of spiritual energy. As they breathed, a rich fragrance drifted everywhere. Their noses could always catch a trace of a unique fragrance that was faintly discernible. In such a place, there was a winding path leading to the mountain. At the starting point, there was a stone tablet that made them want to go up the mountain. "Trespassers shall be killed. The Three Saints of Lingwu." Gu Qingyun read the words on the tablet and looked at Yu Qianqiu with Ko Xuehua. Seeing such a message that left no room for negotiation, the three girls were a little hesitant. The Three Saints of Lingwu? Are they humans, demons, or ghosts? What are they? Yu Qianqiu pinched his chin and wondered. He stared at the words on the stone tablet and muttered to himself, "Who is so awesome?" The Three Saints of Lingwu. Judging from the title, it seems that they are not ordinary people. I wonder if Ghost General's Ghost King token can protect them? It seemed that Yu Ji had said that all demons and ghosts within thousands of miles had to show respect to the token. Thinking of this, Yu Qianqiu felt relieved. He ran his true core, put his hands together and made a trumpet over his mouth. Then he shouted toward the mountain, "Are the Three Saints of Lingwu on the mountain? I'm here to visit you." His voice rolled up the mountain. The others were shocked. What is he doing? Is he afraid that they don't know that someone is trespassing? Who is shouting at the foot of the mountain? Immediately, a voice came back from the mountain. Three gray shadows streaked past. Two of them were strange-looking old men, and a beautiful and seductive woman dressed in revealing clothes. In an instant, they arrived in front of the group. The two sides looked at each other. At a glance, Ko Xuehua could tell that the three people's cultivation was far higher than hers. She began to feel anxious and blamed Yu Qianqiu for running around. Gu Qingyun sighed. "I don't know if this is a blessing or a curse. What is this guy doing? Is there something wrong with his brain? Or has he never seen danger? I've never seen him afraid of anything." Seeing that the atmosphere was not right, the three arrogant women also felt a little timid. After a while, Yu Qianqiu cupped his hands and said with a smile, "I'm Yu Qianqiu. I saw the beautiful scenery on the mountain and wanted to visit it. When I came to the foot of the mountain and saw the stone tablet, I realized that it was already occupied. So, please forgive me for disturbing you." "Are you kidding me? Sightseeing in the demon domain? Do you think you are a demon king or a ghost king? Even we dare not boast like that." The Three Saints of Lingwu looked at each other. There are 6 people, and they are all ordinary people with mediocre cultivation. I can't see through the leader's cultivation. Judging from his appearance, his cultivation should not be very high. Seeing that the 3 people did not speak, Yu Qianqiu smiled again and said, "I guess the 3 of you must be the famous 3 Saints of Lingwu. I've heard a lot about you. Now that I see you, you really live up to your reputation." The people behind him felt a chill run down their spines. This guy can say anything. Just now, they didn't know who the 3 Saints of Lingwu were, but now they had heard a lot about them. Hearing that, an old man with a head full of blonde hair laughed and said, "I was wondering who dared to trespass on the Spirit Fog Mountain. It turns out that there are only a few people." He deliberately emphasized the word people in his words, which undoubtedly told the other party that the three of them were not human. Haha. Indeed, rare guests. The coquettish woman laughed so hard that her breasts shook. Another old man with a decent appearance stuck out his tongue and licked his lips in disgust. He said with a strange smile, "Since you've heard a lot about us, you should know about our reputation in the demon ghost territory. You dare to trespass here with such low cultivation? How refreshing. It seems that we're in luck today. I haven't tasted human flesh for a long time." Swoosh. Seeing that the situation was not right, they quickly pulled out their swords. Xueqi even held her sword and stood in front of Yu Qianchou. Yu Qianchou looked at her with a gratified expression and nodded to himself. He raised his hand and gently pushed her away. Then he stood up straight, causing the people behind him to be shocked. Humph! 3 little monsters dare to make a name for themselves in the demon ghost territory. Even the Monster King and Ghost King, who are in charge of thousands of miles around this place, do not dare to be presumptuous in front of me. Who do you think you are? Yu Qianchou snorted disdainfully. He slowly raised a black token in his hand toward the 3 monsters. Chapter 122. Hee, ignorant junior, speaking such arrogant words. Since you want to die quickly. Gah! The yellow-haired old monster's words came to an abrupt halt, and his eyes widened to the size of an egg. The other 2 monsters also widened their eyes and held their breaths. They stared at the token in Yu Qianchou's hand, and the smile and arrogance on their faces instantly disappeared. There was nothing superfluous on the dark token. On the reverse was the word order, which was held in Yu Qianchou's palm. On the front was a pair of deep eyes. If one were to look at it carefully, they would find that there was a kind of bewitching feeling that was difficult to shake off, and their attention would be drawn to it. The 3 monsters shook their heads, and with great difficulty, they shifted their attention away from the token. They didn't dare to look at it again, and their faces instantly turned pale. The coquettish woman said in a trembling voice, "Ghost King Token." Yu Qianchou's face was as dark as still water, and he slowly put away the token. Suddenly, an imposing aura burst out from his body, covering the 3 trembling monsters. This kind of imposing aura was unique to those who had long controlled the life and death of others. It was not something that could be faked. The 3 no longer dared to doubt that he was making things up and using the Demon King and the Ghost King as a shield. They couldn't help but subconsciously take a step back. The coquettish woman's lips moved, and she wanted to say something. Just as she raised her head, she saw a pair of cold and emotionless eyes looking at her like she was an ant, as if he could crush her at any time. It was the same gaze as the Ghost King's token, indifferent to everything. She was so scared that she lowered her head again, and her body trembled even more. The 3 monsters secretly wanted to slap themselves. They clearly knew that they couldn't see through the other party's cultivation, but they didn't know to be more cautious. They didn't even think about it. If the other party didn't have any strength, would he dare to wander around the demon domain like this? Xueqi and the rest were dumbfounded. Just a moment ago, he was so arrogant, saying that he wanted to eat their meat. But now, he was like a mouse that had seen a cat. He was so frightened by Yu Qianchou that he didn't even dare to raise his head. They didn't see the token in Yu Qianchou's hand, and they didn't hear what the coquettish woman said. All they saw was Yu Qianchou pushing the 3 freaks away. They guessed that he was holding something in his hand that scared the 3 freaks. The swords in the hands of Xiao Wanqing and the other 2 girls slowly drooped down. They had always blindly worshipped Yu Qianchou. Along the way, they had never had the chance to see him unleash his power. Who would have thought that once he unleashed his power, even Xueqi would be afraid of a demon that she couldn't deal with? Then, they looked at Yu Qianchou's back. He was as lofty as a mountain and as deep as an abyss. It gave them a sense of security. The eyes of the 3 girls lit up, filled with little stars. What? You don't want to eat my meat anymore? Yu Qianchou's voice was like the cold air in 10,000 years of ice. There wasn't the slightest emotion in it, which made the people behind him tense up. The strange thing was that the 3 freaks were shocked by his words at first. Then, they lowered their heads and exchanged glances. They calmed down. Yu Qianchou suddenly saw a trace of fierceness in the eyes of the 3 freaks, as if they were ready to do something big. Yu Qianchou's heart shuddered. He thought to himself, "Damn it! I've been too pretentious. The 3 freaks probably think that I won't let them go and want to take a risk." After thinking for a while, He opened his mouth and said in a much softer tone, "Forget it. Ignorance is not a crime. It seems that the three of you haven't gone deep into the central area of the demon domain in the south. I think those who have seen my master and me there wouldn't dare to do this to me in the demon domain. Even the Demon King and the Ghost King wouldn't dare to do this to me even if they had 10,000 guts." The three freaks were shocked again, and their eyes were full of shock. His master was in the central area of the demon domain? There was indeed a person in the legend of that place. It was a person that the demon ghosts in the demon domain didn't even dare to mention. Most of the demon ghosts with low cultivation didn't even know about it. How could he know? There was only one possibility left. His master might really be that person. Otherwise, how could the Ghost General give the Ghost King's token to an ordinary person? It was just that he had never heard of that person having a disciple. Suddenly, the coquettish woman bit her lip and bowed. She deliberately pretended to not understand and asked, "May I know who your master is? Can you tell us so that we can broaden our horizons?" The other two freaks also looked at her in agreement. Damn it! None of the beautiful women in this place are simple. But no matter how smart you are, you still have to drink the water that I wash my feet with. Yu Qianqiu glanced at her and sighed leisurely. You are really three inexperienced little freaks. Fine, I'll tell you my master's name so that you can broaden your horizons and know who you can't afford to offend. The three freaks respectfully said yes again and again. My master's surname is... Shut up. Yu Qianqiu suddenly changed his tone and shouted. He seemed to think of something and didn't forget to glance at the people behind him. Then he turned back and said coldly, "Do you think my master's name is something that you can casually inquire about?" The three freaks looked at each other. Sure enough, his surname was Bai. In this demon domain, only one person with the surname Bai was qualified to live in the center of the demon domain. That was Bai Chongqun, who had already reached the soul formation stage. It just so happened that Yu Qianqiu's action fell into the eyes of the three freaks. It seemed that he didn't want the people around him to know who his master was, so he told them to shut up. If it wasn't that his master was aloof from the world, why would he worry about his master's name being known by others? We were wrong. Mister, please don't be angry. We don't dare to inquire about your master's name anymore. The three freaks did want to kill him, but now they were so scared that they knelt down and kowtowed, begging for mercy. They didn't dare to have any improper thoughts anymore. What a joke. Anyone who knew Bai Chongqun would know that he was famous for being cold-blooded and ruthless. He could do anything he wanted with a flip of his hand. As long as he was unhappy, there was no other way to reason with him. There was only one result: death without mercy. If Bai Chongqun's disciple really had an accident here, which demonic ghost in this area could escape? They would be killed by him with a raise of his hand. Ko Xuehua and the others were stunned. At first, they thought that Yu Qianqiu said his master's surname was Bai, but later they realized that he was telling them to shut up. It must be that he was deliberately mystifying to scare the three freaks. Otherwise, even if he said Elder Guan's name, few people in the demon domain would know. Yu Qianqiu was very happy. Bai Chongqun's name was really useful in this area. When the three freaks were almost done kowtowing, he waved his hand indifferently and said, "Forget it. I am not a person who is calculative. Since I said that those who don't know are not guilty, the three of you can be at ease. Get up. Don't make me unhappy again, or there won't be a next time." The three freaks crawled up obediently and stood by his side, waiting for his orders. Don't be nervous. Yu Qianqiu patted the yellow-haired old freak's shoulder and looked around with a smile. Look at the spiritual mist. It does have the taste of the misty rain in the Jiangnan area. The scenery is unique. Let us up the mountain to have a look. The three freaks quickly bowed and led the way. However, they heard Yu Qianqiu whisper behind them, "If there is a chance, I can bring my master here to have a look." When the three demons in front heard this, their minds were in a daze. They staggered and almost fell to the ground in fright. The three freaks exchanged glances and smiled bitterly. My ancestors. It's troublesome enough for you to come. Don't bring your master here. If your master comes and doesn't like us, he can casually raise his hand and we don't know if we will have a next life. However, they couldn't say no. Bai Chongqun is not welcome. If this gets out, how can I survive in the demon domain? Chapter 123. The disciples at the foot of the mountain were almost all found, but unfortunately, there were still many disciples who encountered danger and couldn't return. When Dongfang Chang'eo returned from sending another batch of disciples up the mountain, Ma Jiugu asked in a deep voice, "Are the disciples of the various sects almost all back?" The divine sense compass of each sect shows that we have found all the people who are still alive. Dongfang Chang'eo took out a miniature version of the divine sense compass and frowned. On the contrary, there are still 6 people from my Fuxian Island who haven't been found. Strange, why did they run so far away? Who else? Ma Jiugu's eyebrows twitched unconsciously. She personally followed the elders of Fuxian Island to search, but she didn't see Yu Qianchou. She was afraid that he had already met with misfortune, but she still hoped that he was among the remaining 6 people. Dongfang Chang'eo stared at the light dots on the divine sense compass and answered, 1 disciple each from the Cultivation Pavilion, Alchemy Pavilion, and Enran Pavilion, as well as 3 disciples from the 10,000 Fragrance Garden. Elder Quan and Elder Sun glanced at the divine sense compass and sighed in their hearts. This kid is really restless. Why did he run so far away? At this moment, several figures flashed over and called out, "Jiugu!" They were the 4 consecrators of Fuxian Island, and the last one was left to guard the mountain peak. Ma Jiugu looked at them and said, "My Fuxian Island still has 6 disciples who are still alive and haven't returned. We can't abandon them." "Of course," one of the consecrators replied, and the other 3 nodded. "Ha ha." A hearty laughter came from afar. "Last night, I heard that Brother Meng came here to welcome guests. Today, there are guests, so how can I, Aoli, dare to slack off? I especially came to greet the honored guests." "Who is Aoli?" Everyone was slightly startled. Judging from the voice, the cultivation of the person who came was not weaker than them. However, Ma Jiugu's expression became a bit excited. Her drooping eyelids suddenly opened and she stared at the source of the voice. Not long after, they saw a soft palanquin made of green vines, carried by 4 bearers, walking in the air. It seemed to be moving very slowly, but it soon landed in front of everyone. These 4 bearers had very high cultivation to be able to walk in the air. Who was it that could make people like them carry the palanquin? Everyone from the supporting immortal island stared at the figure behind the veil, wondering who it was. The 4 porters lifted the palanquin off their shoulders and placed it securely on the ground. The one in front turned around and lifted the veil on the palanquin, revealing the true face of the person inside. A middle-aged man dressed in a green scholarly robe that seemed to have been washed to the point that it was a little pale. He gently waved a folding fan as he lazily reclined on the soft sedan chair. As the veil was pulled up, the man gradually stood up. His black hair was tied at the top of his head. His sword-like eyebrows were slightly raised, and his pitch-black eyes that shone like stars swept across the crowd. What an elegant man! However, it was a little strange for it to appear here. When the man's gaze fell on Ma Jiugu, he suddenly froze. He gently waved the folding fan in his hand and stood up from the sedan chair. He said with a smile, "I was wondering who this esteemed guest was. It turns out to be an old acquaintance." Everyone from the supporting immortal island heaved a sigh of relief when they saw Ma Jiugu. It was good that he was an old acquaintance. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a good thing to fight with someone with such a high cultivation in the demon domain. Moreover, the 4 porters beside him didn't look like people to be trifled with. One of the consecrators asked, "And do you know him?" The one who asked was the previous sect master of the supporting immortal island, Guan Dinghai, who was also Ma Jiugu's nephew. Unexpectedly, Ma Jiugu gritted her teeth and said, "Not only do I know him, my face was ruined by him." "Ah!" Guan Dinghai screamed, and the others were even more startled. Wasn't that an enemy? Everyone immediately became vigilant. Everyone knew that Ma Jiugu's cultivation had reached the final phase of the tribulation 300 years ago. Back then, she was also a beautiful woman. However, when she came back from a cultivation trip, everyone discovered that her face was ruined. Even after using many spirit pills and miraculous medicines, she still couldn't recover, leaving behind a face full of pockmarks. Thus, she was given the nickname Ma Jiugu. The man waved his folding fan and leisurely said, "Guan Jiufeng, you can't blame me for what happened back then. Back then, you didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. You actually dared to barge into this place and started a massacre in the demon domain. If this king doesn't teach you a lesson, you will really think that there is no one in the demon domain that can stop you. You should know that this king is already giving you a lot of face by not taking your life back then. Don't be so ungrateful again. Ma Jiugu was old, but which woman didn't cherish their appearance? Not to mention, she was a beautiful woman back then, and having her face ruined was worse than killing her. Recalling the past and seeing her enemy again, Ma Jiugu couldn't help but tremble with anger. Aunt, who is this person? Guan Dinghai couldn't help but ask after seeing that Ma Jiugu dared to call herself this king. Hearing her nephew's question, Ma Jiugu calmed down and revealed a mocking expression. She sneered and said, Dinghai, don't be fooled by this person's human appearance. He is actually a fox spirit. He is clearly a demon, but he still imitates humans and pretends to be refined. This demon is the local demon monarch, Aoli. Demon monarch Aoli? Everyone was startled. They didn't expect this scholarly man to be one of the 10 famous demon monarchs in the demon domain. They didn't see the Ghost King, but they did see a demon monarch. It seemed it would be difficult for them to settle this peacefully today. No matter how well-mannered this woman was, once she truly hated someone, it was inevitable for her to be a bit sarcastic. Aoli's expression immediately changed upon hearing this. Ma Jiugu's words had indeed poked at his sore spot. Although he was a demon, he was extremely envious of the elegant and refined men in the mortal world and imitated their habits in every aspect. Aoli put away his folding fan and sneered, Guan Jiufeng, seeing that you are an acquaintance, I originally wanted to let you all live, but you don't care about our past relationship. Since that's the case, then all of you can stay here for this king. Chang Ao, the 10 of you retreat, shouted Ma Jiugu. With the strength of Dongfang Chang Ao's group, they weren't qualified to participate in this battle. With that said, Ma Jiugu seemed to instantly become younger. The demon slayer staff in her hand turned into a streak of light that shot towards Aoli's face. Aoli coldly snorted and lightly waved his folding fan, sending the demon slayer staff flying. As soon as the main character made a move, the people on both sides immediately released their auras. With so many people's auras condensing together, they immediately formed a powerful pressure in the surroundings. The surrounding vegetation and rocks were blown away, and the birds and beasts that couldn't escape in time were turned into a bloody mist. The area within a kilometer was immediately cleared. The distant Dongfang Chang Ao's group was startled. They were truly worthy of being late transcending tribulation experts. Before they even made a move, just their auras were already astonishing. Suddenly, Ma Jiugu, Aoli, and the others coughed up a mouthful of blood. Dongfang Chang Ao's group also coughed up a mouthful of blood before directly collapsing to the ground. A sonorous and unparalleled divine sense fiercely crashed into everyone's mind. No one could withstand this blow, and they were all injured in an instant. Who? Ma Jiugu shouted with her mouth full of blood. She staggered back with Guan Dinghai and the others. Their faces were filled with bewilderment. This was too terrifying. Even with their cultivation, they could not block the attack of a divine sense. Aoli and the others also staggered back. Their arrogance from a moment ago disappeared without a trace, replaced with fear and unease. Chapter 124. An ancient voice that was calm and indifferent to everything resounded in the minds of the people of the supporting immortal island. The demon domain isn't a place you should come to. I won't allow a group of people with your cultivation to break the balance here. I'll give you an hour to retreat. Don't go deeper into the demon domain, or you'll be killed without mercy. Who are you? Why don't you show yourself? Ma Jiugu snapped, but she couldn't hide the fear on her face. This person was too strong, so strong that he could seriously injure a group of late-stage tribulation transcendence cultivators with just a thought. Unfortunately, that person didn't respond to her. Then, she saw Aoli nodding. Clearly, that expert was also talking to him. After a while, Aoli said to his 4 subordinates in a flustered tone, "Let's go back." After saying that, he took the lead and flew away, followed by the 4 people. As for the palanquin made of green vines, it had long been blown apart by the shockwave. Everyone from supporting Immortal Island was silent when they saw the arrogant Aoli retreat. Guan Dinghai suddenly thought of an impossible possibility and exclaimed, "Could it be the soul formation stage?" Everyone was shocked. That's right, who else could have such strength besides the legendary soul formation stage? But it was unbelievable. If they hadn't experienced it themselves, they wouldn't have believed that a soul formation stage cultivator existed. Ma Jiugu said in a deep voice. He gave us half an hour. Let's return to the peak first. The 5 elders flashed to Dongfeng Chang'ao's side. Each of them picked up 2 people and quickly flew to the peak. The elders on the mountain were shocked when they saw the people flying over. Regardless of whether they were righteous or evil, they were so shocked that they couldn't close their mouths after seeing the situation clearly. Supporting Immortal Island's Dongfeng Chang'ao and the other elders were unconscious, while the 5 consecrators' faces were pale, and there were traces of blood at the corner of their mouths. The elder who stayed on the mountain was called Lu Qing. When he saw this scene, he couldn't help but ask, "Jogu, what happened?" "Lu Qing, there's no need to say anything. Help them heal first." Ma Jiugu pointed at Dongfeng Chang'ao and the other elders on the ground. She and the other 4 elders sat down cross-legged. The elders of the other sects looked at each other with bewilderment on their faces. What exactly did they encounter at the foot of the mountain? Even the 5 consecrators at the final stage of the crossing tribulation stage were injured? It was simply unbelievable. They all cast their gazes towards the foot of the mountain, but unfortunately, they could not see anything. After a long time, the 5 consecrators stood up one after another. After a while, the 10 elders also slowly woke up. Dongfeng Chang'ao opened his eyes and shouted, "Amazing! I didn't expect such a person to be hiding in the demon region." Ma Jiugu immediately shouted, "Chang'ao, don't talk nonsense." The former looked around and realized that he had returned to the top of the mountain. The people from the various sects were all here. He quickly shut his mouth and got up, standing to the side. The elders of the other sects exchanged glances and were shocked. Although the supporting Immortal Island wanted to hide something, they could tell from Dongfeng Chang'ao's words that the people of the supporting Immortal Island met a person at the foot of the mountain. Moreover, it was a person who could injure 5 consecrators and 10 elders of the supporting Immortal Island by himself. If Dongfeng Chang'ao wasn't talking nonsense, then this person was a little too terrifying. The demon region was indeed not a good place. "Chang'ao, can you see if the 6 disciples are still alive?" Guan Dinghai asked. Dongfeng Chang'ao nodded and took out the compass. He made a hand seal and placed it in front of everyone. The 6 divine sense lights on the compass were still bright. Looking at the distance between them, it was obvious that they were gathered together. Guan Dinghai asked again, "Do you know who these 6 people are?" For the sake of these 6 people, the group of old fellows was covered in dirt. If they didn't know who they were, it would be hard for them to convince themselves. Elder Quan and Elder Sun looked at each other. Guan Dinghai was their master. Elder Quan took a step forward and said, "Master, I know who these 6 people are. They are Gu Qingyun of the Cultivation Pavilion, Xiao Wanqing of the Enron Pavilion, Ko Xuehua, Murong Xian, Mei Yinhong of the Myriad Fragrance Garden, and the last one is..." "Why are you stuttering? There are only 5 of them. Who is the last one?" Guan Dinghai turned around and reprimanded his disciple. Elder Quan was hesitating whether he should remind his master that it was his son's disciple or not. Seeing that his master was unhappy, he simply said, "The last one is the only direct disciple of Senior Marshal Brother Guan of the Alchemy Pavilion. His name is Yu Qianqiu." "Huh? Mighty Marshal's direct disciple? When did he accept a disciple?" Guan Dinghai was stunned. He knew his son too well. How could his son be a master? He was simply misleading his disciples. "Is it Yu Qianqiu?" Ma Jiugu suddenly sighed and said, "I met this disciple in the mulberry garden. Even I didn't expect Mighty Marshal to accept such an outstanding disciple. Sigh. Fortune favors fools." Guan Dinghai was even more shocked. Just how outstanding was his son's disciple? Even his aunt, who usually didn't praise others, was full of praise for him. He really wanted to see for himself. There were less than 800 disciples left on the mountain peak. Originally, there were only 1 or 2 people whispering to each other when they heard Yu Qianqiu's name. However, it didn't take long for all the disciples of the various sects to be talking about him. It was as if they all knew him, and their words were filled with admiration and praise. This scene was a bit unbelievable to the elders. 10,000 Demons' Qiu Wu Yuan had met Yu Qianqiu once before. First, he heard Ma Jiugu's praise, and now he heard the other disciples' praise. He had never seen such a situation. When had he ever seen disciples from both the righteous and demonic paths praise the same person at the same time? Qiu Wu Yuan had a bad temper, but usually, people with bad tempers were more impatient. For a moment, he was itching to be praised by everyone. He couldn't help but shout, "Who can tell me what is going on with this Yu Qianqiu?" The first to respond to him were naturally his disciples from 10,000 demons. After several disciples came to him and saluted him, they began to talk about the legendary story of Yu Qianqiu. Perhaps some people thought that their stories were not appropriate, or they thought that they had missed the content, or something else. First, more and more disciples from 10,000 demons surrounded him, and then disciples from other sects joined in. Everyone started with how Yu Qianqiu faced Ghost General's army, how he led his people to break into Ghost General's camp, how he did not budge when Ghost General's generals reprimanded him, and how he did not kneel. Instead, he talked and laughed in front of Ghost General and his subordinates. There was also the story of how Ghost General was subdued by Yu Qianqiu's song. The soldiers under him shouted in unison, "Mr. Yu is a great talent." The story of Ghost General treating Yu Qianqiu to a drink. The story of Yu Qianqiu rescuing everyone. The disciples of various sects told the story of Yu Qianqiu and Ghost General in an earth-shattering manner. Especially the part where Yu Qianqiu's song stabilized the universe, it was even more shocking. All in all, the details of what happened were very detailed, and everyone felt like they were there again. Some disciples couldn't even find a topic to talk about, and the things that should be said had already been said by others. Therefore they did some embellishments, making it more dangerous when it was dangerous, and when it was passionate, it stirred people's hearts even more. They forcibly magnified the story. Some female disciples from Moon Clan who were rather talented in music couldn't help but sing the song Love Country, Love Beauties together. The elders of various sects and the 6 worshippers of Fuxian Island were dumbfounded. All of them wanted to drag Yu Qianqiu here to see what kind of person he was. Xueqi stroked his beard and sighed. He is really a hero. It was this old man's mistake. I was wrong. Elder Quan and Elder Sun exchanged a look. Why didn't we know that Yu Qianqiu, who was drooling and sleeping on the spacecraft, was such a person? Guan Dinghai's face twitched, and he said woodenly, "Is this a mighty disciple? Our Fuxian Island actually hid such a person? This is really unbelievable." Ma Jiugu remembered that day at the seaside. It was because Yu Qianqiu's song moved Yan Zixia, and she had the idea of matchmaking the two of them. She couldn't help but sigh. I believe what they said. I've heard Yu Qianqiu's zither and song skills with my own ears. It's not an exaggeration to say that he is the best in this field. It's really amazing. Moreover, these disciples didn't know him before. Is there a need to flatter him? Chapter 125. At this time, Yu Qianqiu naturally did not know that the disciples of the 6 major sects were praising him as brightly as a big red flower. He also did not know that the 6 major sects had decided to end the trial ahead of time. He was still wondering if he could fish for more things in the demon region and slowly spend the month before returning. The 3 saints of Lingwu respectfully led the 6 of them to the top of the mountain. They answered all of Yu Qianqiu's questions, and Yu Qianqiu finally learned a little about the 3 freaks. The 3 freaks were all demons who had cultivated for more than 2,000 years and had reached the early stage of the Tribulation passing stage. The flirtatious woman in revealing clothes was a colorful snake spirit called Hong Sonyang. The yellow-haired old freak was a lion spirit called Huang Erwei from his hairstyle. The original form of that dignified old monster was actually a mountain elf named Ho De Quan. When they reached the top of the mountain, they were shocked. What a thick spiritual energy! The spiritual energy at the top of the mountain was actually so thick that it could form fog and rain. Yu Qianqiu could feel the spiritual energy floating on his skin, mixed with the unique fragrance in the air. He felt as if he was immersed in a rain of perfume. The 3 of you sure know how to enjoy yourselves. To think that you would be able to occupy such a good place. I believe it will be of great help to your cultivation, no? Yu Qianqiu said to the 3 freaks with an ambiguous smile. The 3 freaks' hearts skipped a beat. Did he think that the 3 of them were not qualified to enjoy this place? It seemed that they would have to give away this precious place. Hong Sonyang stepped forward and said, "If you are satisfied with this place, the 3 of us are willing to give it to you." Yu Qianqiu glanced at the 2 lumps of white flesh on her chest that even her clothes could not cover. He said indifferently, "Do I look like someone who takes away someone's love?" Hong Sonyang twisted her waist and waved her hands. "That's not what I meant. We are willing to give this place to you." "Is that so?" Yu Qianqiu's gaze fell on Ho Dequan and Huang Erwei. He asked, "Do the two of you mean the same?" The two monsters looked at each other. Ho Dequan said respectfully, "The two of us are not good with words. Sanyang's meaning is our meaning." Yu Qianqiu thought to himself that it was a pity that he couldn't move this place away. He couldn't stay here for long either. Otherwise, if he cultivated here every day, he believed that he would be able to break through to the late stage of the Foundation establishment realm very quickly. Thinking about it, he still felt sorry for them. He waved his hand and said, "I appreciate your kindness, but there is no need." The three freaks exchanged glances and thought to themselves, Bai Chongqun's disciple is really someone who is used to seeing good things. He even looks down on such a good place. Oh right. Yu Qianqiu asked curiously, "Why is there such dense spiritual energy here? Do you know why?" Hong Sanyang smiled a little reservedly and said, "The three of us chose to settle down here because we saw that the surrounding trees were tall and dense. Even after staying here for over 1,000 years, we have never seen anything out of the ordinary. Speaking of which, it was strange. Half a year ago, a fragrance suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Following that, the spiritual qi became more and more abundant, resulting in the current situation. Otherwise, with our cultivation levels back then, we wouldn't have been able to occupy a place like this." Yu Qianqiu nodded. After thinking about it, it made sense. Which monster wouldn't like a place with such dense spiritual energy? With their cultivation levels from 1,000 years ago, they definitely wouldn't have been able to keep it. Even now, it was probably because this phenomenon had only appeared for a short period of time. Otherwise, with their cultivation levels at the early stage of the Tribulation passing stage, they wouldn't have been able to keep it either. They looked around at the surroundings. This mountain was quite strange. The foot of the mountain was lush and verdant, but there wasn't a single tree at the top. It was all a stone forest with jagged rocks of all shapes and sizes. The strange fragrance seemed to be coming from the stone forest. Yu Qianqiu's eyes shone as he stared at the stone forest and asked, "Could it be that there is some kind of treasure beneath this stone forest?" "Mister, please follow me." Hong Sanyang led the way, and everyone followed her into the stone forest. When they arrived in front of a stone cave, the fragrance became even more intense, as if it was coming from this cave. Hong Sanyang pointed at the stone cave and said, "Mister, your thoughts are the same as ours. We also suspected that there is some kind of treasure beneath this mountain, so we wanted to dig a hole to see what is at the bottom. However, the hardness of the stones here is beyond our expectations. The surface is still fine, but the deeper we go, the harder it is to dig. The three of us spent almost half a year to dig 100 meters deep. Now, it's almost impossible to move an inch forward. I'm afraid that without an artifact that can split rocks, we won't be able to go any further." "Oh, there's such a thing?" Yu Qianqiu asked curiously. "Come, let's go in and take a look." As he spoke, he took the lead and walked in. The cave wasn't big, and it could barely accommodate two people walking side by side. It was probably because of the difficulty of digging. After walking for more than 10 meters, they felt their vision darken. Suddenly, they saw specks of fluorescent light. Yu Qianqiu was stunned. Were they fluorites? Could it be that there was a spirit stone mine below? When he was a miner in Ong Kwang-tsung, he found out that fluorites were associated with spirit stones. He quickly walked down. Because this cave was dug from the top of the mountain, the slope was quite steep. Every 10 meters, the direction of the cave would turn in the opposite direction. After walking for about 100 meters, they realized that there was no more path. They had reached the end of the cave. Hong Sanyang explained from behind, "The three of us have only dug up to this point." Yu Qianqiu nodded. He made a hand seal, and the 3 cold lights on his body quickly shot towards the stone wall. A series of ding-ding-dang-dang sounds were heard. When the flying swords returned, they discovered that the series of attacks only left a bunch of white spots on the stone wall. They couldn't even make a few small holes. Hiss! Yu Qianqiu sucked in a breath of cold air. He reached out to touch the stone wall and said, "What a hard stone." Hong Sanyang's eyes flashed with a trace of a smile. She thought, there must be some kind of treasure under the mountain. Otherwise, there wouldn't be such a strange phenomenon. I brought you here because I knew you couldn't dig it out. In the future, the 3 of us will dig it out, and the thing below will still be ours. Yu Qianqiu pinched his chin and looked at the stone wall for a while. Suddenly he said, "All of you go out first. Without my permission, no one can come in. Hong Sanyang, the three of you take good care of my friends. If they lose even a single hair, you can think of the consequences yourself." His last sentence was very cold against the blue fluorescent light in the cave. The three saints of Ling Wu quivered and bowed to accept the order. On the other hand, Ko Shuahua and the others were secretly muttering, "We are disciples of the same sect, when did we become your friends?" However, they were in a dangerous situation, and they weren't stupid. Yu Qianqiu's words must have a deeper meaning, so they could only make up their minds to cooperate. Yu Qianqiu waited until there was no more movement behind him. After confirming that everyone had left, a pair of gloves appeared in his hands. It was the mountain-piercing claw that had once helped him steal spirit stones. After putting on the gloves, Yu Qianqiu stroked his shiny black claws and muttered with a smile, "A magical treasure that can split mountains and split rocks? I happen to have one here. I want to see what's down there. It's actually protected by such hard stones. Don't let me down." Swoosh, swoosh. Claw shadows danced in the air, and the iron-like stone walls began to crumble. Accompanied by an uncontrollable smile on Yu Qianqiu's face, he went deeper into the cave. After half a day, Yu Qianqiu didn't know how deep he had dug, but it was enough to reach the bottom of the mountain. This was because the mountain wasn't high to begin with. It was estimated to be only 200 to 300 meters high. Apart from the nearly 100 meters that the three monsters had dug, he estimated that he had also dug 200 to 300 meters. Thinking of this, Yu Qianqiu couldn't help but curse. F***CK. 3 idiots. Don't you know to dig from the bottom of the mountain? Why did you have to dig from the top? You made me work for so long for nothing. After cussing, he swung his claws again. Suddenly, he felt relaxed as a purple light squirmed in the hole in the stone wall. Yu Qianqiu was overjoyed. He clawed a few times and dug a hole that he could crawl through. First, he stuck his head in to take a look. What he saw stunned Yu Qianqiu, and he almost drooled. Chapter 126. Someone in the cultivation world once divided spirit stones into 5 grades. Inferior grade, intermediate grade, superior grade, supreme grade, and divine grade. Yu Qianqiu had seen and used the first 3 grades, and there were many in Utopia. As for supreme grade, he had only heard that it was a purple grade spirit stone. Unlike the first 3 grades, the exchange rate between a higher grade and a lower grade was 100. It was said that 1 supreme grade spirit stone could be exchanged for 10,000 superior grade spirit stones. He had never seen it before. It was only when he saw Ghost General's purple wine cup that he realized the existence of supreme grade spirit stones in this world. Some people said that inferior grade spirit stones were mostly used by commoners in the cultivation world, while intermediate grade spirit stones were mostly used by the rich and powerful. According to the first 2 metaphors, the amber gold superior grade spirit stones symbolized the royalty among spirit stones, while the purple supreme grade spirit stones symbolized the emperor among spirit stones. As for the higher grade divine grade spirit stones, no one seemed to have seen them before. Some people said they were red, some said they were black, and some said they were 7-colored. In short, there was no conclusion. Pah! Yu Qianqiu had just crawled out of the cave when he fell flat on his face due to being distracted. He shook his head, and his eyes shone with purple light as he crawled up nonchalantly. He swallowed his saliva and mumbled, "Cake seller. I'm not dreaming, am I?" What did he see? In front of him was an amethyst palace. It was a medium-sized cave filled with amethysts that shone with purple light. This was a world of amethysts. No, not exactly. In the center of the amethyst palace, several crystal bamboo shoots formed by amethysts surrounded a black crystal. The black crystal was about 3 meters in diameter, and it was covered with black crystal teeth like a hedgehog protecting itself. It emitted a faint black glow, suppressing the purple light in the hall. It was filled with an unquestionable dominance. Yu Qianqiu felt like he was in a fantasy world. He broke off a piece of amethyst from the side in disbelief. The crystal lay in his palm. Its shape and size were no different from ordinary spirit stones, except for the difference in color. He then leaned on the amethyst wall to observe. As expected, there were very regular cracks. Breaking off a piece would naturally be the same size and shape as a spirit stone. This might be the special characteristic of spirit stones. He held a purple crystal in each of his hands and activated his cultivation technique. Boundless spiritual energy gushed out from the two little guys. Holy shit! It really is a supreme-grade spirit stone. Yu Qianqiu casually tossed the purple crystal aside with his two hands. The purple crystal let out a crisp, ding-dang-dang sound. Wah! I'm rich! Wah! I'm rich! Yu Qianqiu suddenly raised his head and laughed maniacally. He laughed so hard that tears were about to come out of his eyes. With a flash, he directly rushed into the Amethyst Palace, rolling and crawling all over the place. When he saw a amethyst bamboo shoot, he hugged and kissed it madly. He was even crazier than when he saw the most beautiful woman in the world with the most voluptuous body. In the end, extreme joy turned to sorrow. He accidentally bumped into the crystal tooth of the black crystal in the center. F***CK. The sharp pain on his forehead woke him up from his madness. He rubbed his forehead with his hand and climbed up. He felt something sticky on his palm. When he let go of his hand, he saw a patch of red. Did he actually break his forehead? Damn it! What kind of thing is so sharp? Yu Qianqiu let out a strange cry. It should be known that although his current cultivation was not high, it was already very difficult for ordinary blades and spears from the secular world to harm his skin. Moreover, he had only accidentally bumped into the wall just now. How could his head be cut open? He couldn't help but take a few steps back, looking at the 3 zhong tall black crystal from top to bottom. The fully armed black crystal tooth shone brightly under the purple light, showing its inviolable sovereignty. Black crystal? There are spirit stones of this color? Holy shit, could it be? The muscles on Yu Qianqiu's face twitched as he thought of a spirit stone that only existed in legends. He hurriedly took a few steps forward. His head, which had just stopped bleeding, once again touched the black crystal tooth. He opened his mouth wide to examine it. Sure enough, he found a pattern of cracks similar to those on the amethyst wall. Yu Qianqiu's trembling hands touched it. As he carefully caressed it, his mouth kept mumbling, "How is this possible? How is this possible? Could it really be the legendary divine-grade spirit stone? I don't believe it, I really don't believe it. Please don't play such a big joke on me. In fact, these top-grade spirit stones are enough for me, really enough. Please don't joke with me. My heart is too fragile. I really can't take fright. I'm really very timid." Pa! A small piece of the black crystal tooth was ruthlessly torn off by him. It was cold to the touch. Yu Qianqiu stuck out his tongue and licked his lips. His palm gripped the small piece of thing tightly, circulating his cultivation technique. Suddenly, a surge of spiritual energy surged into his meridians like a raging sea. Ah! Yu Qianqiu let out a miserable scream. His palm loosened, and the small piece of black crystal fell onto the amethyst floor. Yu Qianqiu's teeth chattered from the pain. He couldn't even lift his arm. He didn't expect that such a small piece of black crystal could contain so much spiritual energy. With a little more absorption, it was like an ocean pouring into a river. Even the ladders on both sides of the river were about to be washed away. Just like that, the meridians in his arm were already injured. Oh my God! Absorbing spiritual energy actually damaged my meridians. This is simply unheard of. Yu Qianqiu gritted his teeth and muttered. But right now, he was in pain and happy at the same time. Without a doubt, the black crystal in front of him was really the legendary divine-grade spirit stone. But wasn't this the legendary spirit stone used by immortals? How could it be found in this demon domain? Fortunately, his arm was still hurting, otherwise he would have gone crazy from happiness. Taking out a healing pill, he put it into his mouth and sat cross-legged to repair his damaged meridians. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea, he exhaled and opened his eyes. He casually picked up the small piece of black crystal on the ground and stood up. After this torment, he finally calmed down. At this time, he thought of another matter. The spiritual energy and fragrance outside were most likely related to this amethyst palace. Moreover, the fragrance inside was clearly much richer than outside. Where did this fragrance come from? Could it be that the spiritual energy was too rich that it emitted a fragrance? Yu Qianqiu looked around the amethyst palace, not even sparing the top of his head. However, he did not find anything special. Thus, he put his hands behind his back and sniffed around. After a few rounds, He found that the place with the strongest fragrance was where the black crystal was. But when he stuck his nose to it, he could not smell anything. What was going on? Taking a few steps back, his nose twitched. Feeling the flow of the fragrance in the air, Yu Qianzhou's gaze fell on the top of the black crystal. The fragrance in the air seemed to be coming from there. What else could there be up there? Yu Qianzhou walked over and lightly climbed up the black crystal tooth. It didn't take long for his head to reach the top. As far as the eye could see, there were no crystal teeth on it. Instead, there was a small black nest, and in the nest, there was a ball of fluffy white fur. It was faintly covered in a layer of rainbow light, and there were small white flowers that were almost invisible to the naked eye at the top of the hair. Along with his slight breathing, the white and tender ball of hair, which was about the length of a finger, began to sway gently. An indescribable fragrance spread faintly. Yu Qianzhou twisted his head and muttered to himself, "What is this? It seems that it can be blown away by a heavy breath. The fragrance emitted by this little thing can actually penetrate such a thick rock and run out to seduce people? It's really strange." Something suddenly flashed in Yu Qianzhou's mind. His eyes suddenly opened wide, and his mouth opened so wide that a fist could be stuffed inside. His hands and feet loosened, and he directly fell to the ground. He was not aware of the pain of falling at all. He lay on the ground with his legs spread out, motionless. His eyes and mouth were still so wide open. After a while his mouth opened and closed and he murmured, "My name is Yu Tan. I miss you day and night. My name is Yu Tan. I miss you and don't see you. My hair is like snow for 10,000 years. My name is Yu Tan. I miss you and don't see you. My beauty is withered, and it won't be long. My name is Yu Tan. I'm afraid that I won't see you. This longing will appear once in 1,000 years. My name is Yu Tan. I will never die. If you come to see me, don't miss me. 1,000 years, every strand is missed." Chapter 127. The elixir recipe Jade Disc recorded 10 top-notch spirit herbs with the most miraculous effects. These 10 spirit herbs were listed as spirit herbs that shouldn't appear in the mortal world. For such a good thing, Yu Qianzhou naturally read it very attentively. Among them, there was a spirit herb called Adumbra flower. The record and description of it in the jade disc was exactly the same as the white velvet flower that he had just seen. There was a story recorded in the jade disc. It was said that there used to be a beautiful god named Adumbra flower. She was the daughter of a god king, but she and an ordinary god fell in love. Her father didn't allow it and wanted to separate them. In the end, the two agreed to elope and meet again somewhere in the mortal world. They said that they would not leave until they meet. In the end, Adumbra waited in the mortal world for 10,000 years, but her lover didn't come. Because she privately went to the mortal world, she was injured in the process and couldn't live forever. 10,000 years later, Adumbra was already old and beautiful. Before she died, she turned into a strange flower, which was the Adumbra flower. She left a message on the stone wall for her lover, which was what Yu Qianzhou had been muttering. Yu Qianzhou didn't believe this legend, but it also proved that this flower was extraordinary. The jade disc recorded that the Adumbra flower was in the shape of white velvet. Every 1,000 years, it would only grow a single strand and bloom into a small white flower. As long as there was no external force to destroy it, as long as a single strand grew, it would never wither. Mortals could stay young forever after consuming a little flower. Its healing effect was unparalleled in the world, and it could heal the dead. Of course, this was just a metaphor. How could the dead be revived? However, as long as there was still a breath left, it could indeed be saved. "I'm really lucky," Yu Qianzhou murmured. He stood up in a daze and looked around the amethyst palace. After a while, he suddenly hugged an amethyst bamboo next to him and burst into tears. He had never cried like this since he came to this world. Yu Qianzhou's face was covered in tears. He had never cried like this before. Why is my life so bitter? If only I could send the entire Amethyst Palace to Utopia. How beautiful and good the Amethyst Palace would be. Do I really have to break it up and send it over? This is something that can't be seen even once in 1,000 years. Boo-hoo. It turned out that Yu Qianzhou was crying because his cultivation level was not high enough, and he did not have the strength to send such a huge palace into Utopia in one go. The thought of having to dismantle this treasure made in heaven really made his heart ache. But no matter how much his heart ached, he still had to break them up and send them away. Since he had already dug a hole in the ground, wouldn't it become someone else's property if it stayed here? Yu Qianqiu waved his sleeves to wipe away the tears on his face. His divine sense immediately contacted Bai Suzhen of Utopia and said, "Big sister, I'll have to trouble you with something. Quickly go to a hidden place at the bottom of the valley and set up a formation. You have to use your special skills and set up a formation that will make it difficult for others to barge in. I want to send some good treasures over, but it's really inconvenient for others to see it now." In Utopia, Bai Suzhen nodded. She was obedient to her brother's words. When she thought about how she could see something that others couldn't see, she couldn't help but feel a sweetness in her heart. She immediately used teleportation, which consumed a lot of primordial energy, to avoid everyone and instantly arrived at the peak of the mountain where Yu Qianqiu had carved the words, Utopia. Her figure flashed into the valley. After finding a relatively hidden place, Bai Suzhen set up a formation according to Yu Qianqiu's instructions. Yu Qianqiu sent another message. "Sister, after the items are sent over, immediately activate the formation." Bai Suzhen nodded and thought to herself, "I want to see what you can get. Why are you acting so mysterious?" Before she could react, large pieces of purple crystals appeared out of thin air and began to pile up on the ground. Could this be a supreme-grade spirit stone? Bai Suzhen raised her hand to cover her lips as she looked at the sparkling purple crystals falling in front of her eyes. Her eyes widened. She, who was usually calm and collected, was clearly shocked by this scene. Whether it was a human or a demon, in the cultivation world, it was a huge fortune. Half a day later, the purple crystals were still falling. Bai Suzhen's expression turned serious. She released her divine sense and carefully checked the surroundings. It was indeed inconvenient for someone who wasn't extremely trustworthy to see such a large amount of purple crystals. She had to help her brother keep a lookout. Another half a day later, the purple crystals no longer appeared. However, Yu Qianqiu asked with a grin, "Sister, have you seen a divine-grade spirit stone before?" Bai Suzhen was stunned. After pondering for a while, she shook her head. "I've heard of it, but I've never seen it before." Hee. Yu Qianqiu laughed again. "Then, have you heard of the Adumbra flower?" "Ah!" Bai Suzhen exclaimed. "Is it the legendary Adumbra flower that can preserve one's youth?" She then asked, "Brother, do you have it?" "Kaka." In another space, Yu Qianqiu laughed madly. Sister Ran was usually a calm woman, but no woman could resist the temptation of something that could preserve one's youth. Hee. Sister is really knowledgeable. You've even heard of this thing. Sister, I didn't come to Demon Domain in vain. Watch carefully. I'll let you see the divine-grade spirit stone with the Adumbra flower on your head," Yu Qianqiu said proudly. As soon as he finished speaking, a black crystal with a circumference of 1 zhong appeared on the pile of purple crystals. It was covered in crystal teeth. "This is a divine-grade spirit stone? Such a big piece?" Bai Suzhen floated over and caressed it with her slender hands. Suddenly, a unique fragrance spread from it. She sniffed and heard Yu Qianqiu say with a smile, "Sister, look at what's growing on it." Bai Suzhen immediately thought of the Adumbra flower. Her body was as graceful as a fairy as she floated into the air. The moment she saw the ball of white velvet on top of the black lump, she cried out in surprise, "Is this really the Adumbra flower? I've never seen it before." "Brother, are you sure?" Yu Qianqiu said proudly. "Sister, look at what you're saying. Do you think I'd lie to you?" Bai Suzhen nodded her head with a radiant smile on her face. Floating in the air, she bent down and reached out her hand to touch the ball of white velvet. In the end, she did not touch it. She felt that it was too delicate and her heart would be broken if she touched it. Hee, this thing is a great treasure. When I go back, I'll pick a few spiritual herbs to stimulate its medicinal effects. I'll refine a furnace of elixirs for Sister to maintain youth. Sister will never grow old. Forever the prettiest woman in the world. Haha. Bai Suzhen nodded in high spirits. Her pretty face was flushed red, looking even more alluring. Then she heard Yu Qianqiu say, "Sister, activate the treasure-protecting formation first. I still have some matters to attend to here. We'll talk about the rest when I get back." He then fell silent. Bai Suzhen calmed herself down and did as she was told. Yu Qianqiu wandered around the empty amethyst palace. After making sure there were no purple crystals left, he looked at the stone walls around him and sighed heavily. The stone walls were covered in amber gold. They were high-grade spirit stones. This was obviously a spirit stone mine, and it was the highest-grade spirit stone mine. If it was any other time, he would definitely dig them up fiercely. But he had just made a fortune. These high-grade spirit stones were insignificant to him. Sigh. Let's make a fortune together. Yu Qianqiu sighed. His figure flashed into the hole he dug and quickly returned to the top of the mountain. As soon as he walked out of the hole, Xueqi and the others, as well as the 3 saints of Lingwu, came to greet him. Yu Qianqiu shook his head at the crowd and said, "It's already opened up." Sigh. How boring. I thought it was some treasure, but it turns out to be a spirit stone mine. I've been busy for so long in vain. All of you, go down and take a look. Chapter 128. Xiao Wanqing and the other 2 girls had never seen a spirit stone mine before, so they immediately hopped into the cave. The 3 sages of Lingwu looked at each other in confusion. It had only been 2 days? The 3 demons estimated that the place where they had dug was not far from where they had dug. Otherwise, how could they have dug it so quickly? Xueqi and Gu Qingyun also followed the 3 demons in. As they ventured deeper into the cave, the 3 demons became more and more alarmed. They walked all the way to the spirit stone cave at the bottom. Calculating the distance between them and the cave, it was more than 300 meters deep. The 3 of them had spent nearly half a year to dig 100 meters, but Yu Qianqiu had dug more than 300 meters in less than 2 days. How could they not be shocked? Therefore, the 3 demons were even more in awe of by Changchun's disciple. Wow! Xiao Wanqing and the other 2 girls kept exclaiming, "So many high-grade spirit stones. All of them are high-grade spirit stones." 3 pairs of white and tender little hands kept stroking the stone wall. Their eyes were full of little stars. Xueqi and Gu Qingyun were also amazed. Admittedly, they had never seen a spirit stone mine before. Secondly, they had never seen so many superior-grade spirit stones exposed on the stone wall. The amber gold shone brightly, clearly tempting people to come and pick them. Then Yu Qianqiu, who slowly walked into the cave, laughed and said, "I'll give you 20 days. How much you can dig will be yours." I think the 3 sages of Lingwu are not such stingy people. When he said the last sentence, he looked at the 3 demons. They were indeed a little unwilling to give away so many superior-grade spirit stones for nothing. Ho Dequan and Huang Erwei smiled awkwardly. They could not afford to offend Yu Qianqiu. On the other hand, Hong Sanyang smiled brightly at everyone and said, "Everyone, go ahead and dig as much as you can. I guarantee that you will all be able to take them away." "Thank you, Sister Hong," everyone said in unison. After thanking her, they started their own excavation. Even Xueqi and Gu Qingyun pulled out their swords and pried the spirit stones from the stone wall. Xiao Wanqing and the other 2 girls, in particular, seemed to have a grudge against the stone wall. They held their swords and stabbed wildly. Unfortunately, the stone wall was too hard. No matter how he tried, he couldn't pry a piece off. Yu Qianqiu, on the other hand, was stunned. He looked at Hong Sanyang, and couldn't help but admire her social skills. In just a day or 2, she had already become the big sister of these guys. However, he was quite generous. If it was an ordinary person, they would definitely not be willing to give so many spirit stones to others. For example, the 2 demons, Ho and Huang, had uneasy expressions on their faces. Looking at the meaningful smile on Hong Sanyang's face, then looking at the miserable digging speed of the people from supporting Immortal Island, Yu Qianqiu suddenly came to a realization. It turned out that this woman already knew that they wouldn't be able to dig anything, so she did them a favor at little cost. What a good scheme. "You guys go dig as well." Yu Qianqiu walked to the front of the 3 demons and said with a smile. The 2 demons, Ho and Huang, chuckled. Originally, they were still a little worried about Yu Qianqiu. Now that they had obtained his permission, there was no reason for them to be polite. They immediately took out their weapons and got busy. For a moment, the cave was filled with clanking sounds. "Why aren't you going?" Yu Qianqiu glanced at Hong Sanyang out of the corner of his eye. Hong Sanyang was still annoyed at the 2 demons for being so useless. Such a huge spirit stone mine was in her own home, so why were they in such a hurry? What did they want to snatch from others? As long as Yu Qianqiu didn't make a move, how much could they dig even if they dug for a year, let alone 20 days? It wasn't easy for this old woman to do them a favor at little cost. But now you guys have messed things up and made me look down on you for no reason. Could it be that building a good relationship with Bai Chongqun's disciple isn't more important than these spirit stones? What a pig brain. Hearing Yu Qianqiu's question, Hong Sanyang's expression instantly changed. She smiled and said, "It won't be too late to dig in the future. I will accompany Mr. That's right, mister. Why aren't you digging for some spirit stones?" "Me digging for it?" Yu Qianqiu snorted in disdain. "I've already taken a big one. Why would I need to work hard for a small one in front of you?" Face was something that could only be used at crucial times. Yu Qianqiu couldn't be bothered to say anything more. His left hand took out a piping hot roasted pheasant. He had instructed Chen Feng in Utopia to roast it. His right hand held a wine cup and a wine pot, and he leisurely found a place to sit down. He poured himself a cup of wine and took a bite of the meat. He shook his head as he watched the crowd dig for spirit stones. The sight of the girl's buttocks swaying back and forth was indeed a sight to behold. Hong Sanyang was shocked. With her cultivation, she could naturally tell that the roasted pheasant had just been roasted. It would make sense if Yu Qianqiu didn't care about high-grade spirit stones. After all, his sect was extraordinary, so he definitely wouldn't care about these things. But where did this freshly roasted pheasant come from? How could he roast a chicken in his storage bag? That was simply impossible. As expected, the disciple of an expert had superior methods. Seeing him staring at the girl's buttocks, Hong Sanyang looked down at her half-naked chest and smiled. She walked over to Yu Qianqiu and sat down beside him. She picked up the wine pot from the ground and smiled. "Let me pour some wine for you, sir." Feeling the pressure on his arm, Yu Qianqiu narrowed his eyes and looked at the 2 lumps of white meat that had been squeezed out of shape. He didn't say anything and just silently drank and ate the meat. In just a short while, he had finished the roasted pheasant. Seeing that there was no reaction, Hong Sanyang felt that it was a pity. If only she could hook up with Bai Chongqun's disciple, she wouldn't have to live in fear in the demon region for the rest of her life. While she was in a daze, she suddenly saw an oily hand grabbing towards her full breasts. Just as she was about to be overjoyed, the other party only grabbed and pinched her breasts. He casually rubbed the oil on his hand before retracting his hand. Her white and tender breasts were immediately covered in oil. Hong Sanyang was stunned for a moment before her face turned red. This person was too bad. Using my breasts to wipe the oil on his hands. She looked at the people digging for spirit stones like a thief. Seeing that everyone was busy digging for spirit stones and no one had seen her, she stood up and hurried out. Yu Qianqiu smiled and put away the wine utensils in front of him. He tore 2 pieces of cloth from the corner of his robe and stuffed them in his ears. Immediately, the sound of the clanking became much quieter. Using his arms as a pillow, he lay down and started humming an authentic Peking opera tune. I stood on the city gate tower and looked at the mountain scenery. My ears heard the chaos outside the city, flags fluttering in the wind. He gradually fell asleep. He didn't know how long he slept for. Suddenly, he was pushed awake. When he opened his eyes, he saw that it was Xiao Wanqing who had pushed him. Everyone was surrounding him, looking anxious. He quickly got up and asked, "What's wrong? Why are you speaking so softly?" When he came back to his senses, he realized that his ears were blocked. He tore off the cloth and glanced at Hong Sanyang's white breasts, asking, "What's wrong?" Hong Sanyang frowned and said, "I don't know who it is, but they've surrounded the entire mountain." Yu Qianqiu looked at her coldly. "You've lived here for so long and you don't even know who has surrounded you. You're more likely to lie to a ghost. I'd like to see what you're up to." Without another word, he dashed out. The group followed him out. When he reached the top of the mountain and looked down, he saw a circle of people at the foot of the mountain. There were more than 10 people holding torches and galloping up the mountain on horseback. Under the illumination of the torches, their armor was clear. Who else could it be but Ghost General's men? Only Ghost General and his gang would pretend to be soldiers even though they've clearly become ghosts. If even I can see it, how can you not see it, Hong Sanyang? Yu Qianqiu pondered for a moment and understood what was going on. Hong Sanyang was probably trying to make use of him. She heard that he was acquainted with Ghost General, so she used him to solve the problem. What if what he said was false? What if, in the future, she also used the fact that he was Bai Chongchun's disciple? Who knew what Bai Chongchun would do if he found out that someone was pretending to be his disciple? This woman was a little too smart. Humph! Yu Qianqiu snorted coldly. His killing intent rose, and he turned around abruptly, staring coldly at Hong Sonyang. He hated people who schemed against him the most. When there was no other way, he would tolerate it. But when there was a way, he would not tolerate it for even a moment. Hong Sonyang's thoughts were seen through, and she shifted her steps slightly unnaturally. Even Ho Dequan and Huang Erwei could see what was going on. Chapter 129. More than a dozen people dressed like generals rode down the hill, and the leader was the general who looked like Zhang Fei. More than a dozen horsemen lined up in a row, and the 3 saints of Ling Wu were so scared that they took a step back. On the contrary, Ko Xuehua and the others were not afraid at all. Yu Qianqiu slowly walked toward the horsemen. When General Zhang Fei saw Yu Qianqiu, he was stunned and said, "Mr. Yu." The other generals also looked at each other. Sai Zhangfei was the first to dismount from his horse and clasped his fists. "Greetings, Mr. Yu." All the generals dismounted and clasped their fists. "Greetings, Mr. Yu." That day, Yu Qianqiu's song completely convinced them. In addition, he had a good relationship with the ghost general, so it was natural that they had to give him a greeting gift. The 3 saints of Ling Wu heaved a sigh of relief. Bai Chongchun's disciple was really influential. These ghost generals had the same cultivation level as the Ghost King, and any one of them could easily kill them. They didn't know why they surrounded Mount Ling Wu today. Fortunately, Yu Qianqiu was here. No need to be so polite. Yu Qianqiu raised his hand and said, "What brings you here today?" Sai Zhangfei didn't hide and said bluntly, "Today, we received a report from a spy saying that the spiritual energy here is fluctuating violently, so the great general specially ordered us to investigate the situation." "I see." Yu Qianqiu glanced at the foot of the hill. Damn it! Sure enough, they had nothing better to do after eating. Was there a need to investigate the situation in such a big way? However, it was probably caused by him breaking through the cave and removing the spiritual stones. Yu Qianqiu turned to Ko Xuehua and the others and said with a gentle smile, "You go down the hill first, I will come later." The few of them were very cooperative and followed his instructions. They passed through more than 10 riders, and no one stopped them. When Red Lady saw Yu Qianqiu revealing a gentle smile at this moment, she saw Ko Xuehua and the others walking away from her, leaving only the 3 of them. It seemed a little cold and cheerless. When she saw the ghost generals lined up in a row, she suddenly felt that something was wrong. Weren't they going to dig out 20 sky spirit stones? After a few thoughts, her face turned deathly pale. Her voice trembled as she pleaded, "Mister, please let the 3 of us go. It was Sonyang's fault just now. I shouldn't have played tricks on you." Ho Dequan and Huang Erwei were still scratching their heads in confusion. Seeing that Yu Qianqiu was still smiling, they couldn't understand what was going on. "I don't see why Yu Qianqiu is angry." Yu Qianqiu turned around and walked towards the generals. The smile on his face instantly turned gloomy. As he walked he said, "Hong Sonyang, don't you think it's too late? If everyone apologized after doing something wrong, then everything would be fine. Wouldn't the world be at peace? What's the point of fighting and killing then?" "No!" Hong Sonyang panicked. "Mister, please let Sonyang off this time." As she said that, she ran to pull Yu Qianqiu. "How dare you? How dare you be so rude to Mr. Yu?" Sai Zhangfei roared and stood behind Yu Qianqiu. With a swoosh, he unsheathed half of his saber from his waist. In a split second, more than 10 pairs of murderous eyes stared at Hong Sonyang. Sonyang knows her mistake. Sonyang really knows her mistake. "Mister, please let me go." Hong Sonyang staggered back. At this moment, Ho Dequan and Huang Erwei also knew that something was wrong. They were so scared that they didn't know what to do. In front of a group of Ghost King's late-stage generals, they couldn't escape even if they wanted to. "Generals, please kill these 3 demons on the spot. Don't leave a single one alive." Yu Qianqiu turned around and said coldly and mercilessly. As soon as he said that, the Ling Wu 3 saints were really scared out of their wits. The ghost generals were stunned. We protect you because we respect you. What right do you have to order us around? When they turned around, they saw Yu Qianqiu slowly raising a black token in his hand. They were shocked and immediately said in unison, "Yes, mister." More than 10 black shadows with late-stage Ghost King's cultivation pounced on the Ling Wu three saints. The screams came to an abrupt end. A mist of blood spread out. The three demons didn't even have a chance to fight back. Not even their corpses could be found. Yu Qianqiu's mind flashed with Hong Sanyang's voluptuous smile. He shook his head and sighed. What a pity for that pair of tits. I wanted to keep them for my use. Why did they have to show off their little tricks? They brought this upon themselves. More than 10 ghost generals flashed back and cupped their fists in unison, indicating that they had completed their mission. Yu Qianqiu nodded approvingly. Military management is the best. My orders are like a landslide. Wherever I point, I will attack without any discussion. Looks like I need to create an army in the cultivation world. There is a spiritual stone mine at the foot of this mountain. Since the three demons are dead, I can let your great general take over. Yu Qianqiu thought to himself. He had let Meng Yan take advantage of it. A spiritual stone mine? Great General thought that some treasure was about to appear, Sai Zhongfei said regretfully. Sai Zhongfei lamented. Spirit stones were of no use to ghost cultivators. What they needed was yin qi, not spiritual qi. However, he gestured to the people around him, and they immediately spread out to search. Obviously, they wanted to verify if what Yu Qianqiu said was true. Sai Zhongfei turned around and smiled apologetically. Mister, please don't blame me. It's not that I don't believe you. It's just that I have a military mission and I have to be cautious. I was wondering why you made such a big fuss. Turns out that Meng Yan had the intention to steal the treasures. As expected, none of them are good. But you guys are too late. I have already taken all the valuable things. Yu Qianqiu waved his hand and smiled, expressing his understanding. As a soldier, if they couldn't even be careful, then there was no need for them to fight. They might as well take a knife to their own throats and save themselves the embarrassment of being defeated. He was very appreciative of this. Sai Zhongfei suddenly asked curiously. Mister, according to our information, didn't you guys go back? Why are there only a few of you left? Yu Qianqiu roared with laughter. Then there's definitely a mistake in your information. Aren't I standing right in front of you? No way. Sai Zhongfei waved his hand with certainty. Even if our information is wrong, Demon King Ao Li wouldn't lie. He is still with the great general. I heard it from his own mouth. He fought with a few experts from Fuxian Island a few days ago. In the end, both sides suffered some losses. At the same time, I received news from our scouts that there are only 6 people left on the Cloud Sky Peak. The others have already left. Demon King Ao Li is one of the 10 great demon kings of the demon domain. Yes. He and the great general are the masters of this place. They are sworn brothers. Yu Qianqiu's face twitched. No way. They really left? Mister doesn't need to be suspicious. How can such a big target leave the demon domain without us knowing? But Mister doesn't need to worry. Maybe the 6 people on the Cloud Sky Peak are waiting for Mister. Sai Zhongfei comforted. Yu Qianqiu was still a little confused about what was going on. At this time, the ghost generals who were searching had already retreated. They indicated that there was nothing but a spirit stone mine. Sai Zhongfei nodded. It was exactly as Yu Qianqiu said. Mister, are you going back? Sai Zhongfei asked. Yu Qianqiu nodded. Everyone is going back. I naturally have to go back as well. If Mister doesn't mind, I can escort Mister for a while before reporting back. Yu Qianqiu saw that he was sincere. He thought that it would be best if they escorted him. He didn't have to worry about any accidents. He nodded. Then I'll have to trouble you. I'll call my fellow disciples first. With them around, Yu Qianqiu didn't have anything to worry about. He directly rode his sword down the mountain and found Ko Xuehua and the others. Ko Xuehua asked about the screams on the mountain just now. Yu Qianqiu only said that the 3 Ling Wu sages were killed by a group of ghost generals. He didn't say that he was the one who ordered it. Everyone who had some friendship with Hong Sanyang sighed. When they knew that the disciples of the various sects had already returned, they were even more shocked. Then, under the escort of Sai Zhongfei and the 4 ghost generals, everyone flew towards the cloud sky peak without any worries. Chapter 130. The people on the cloud sky peak were none other than the 6 consecrators of supporting Immortal Island. The elders of the other sects had 2 regrets before they left. One was that they didn't know who had injured the 6 consecrators of supporting Immortal Island, and the other was that they wanted to meet Yu Qianqiu. It was clear that Yu Qianqiu was not going to say anything about the first matter. As for seeing Yu Qianqiu, he did not know if Yu Qianqiu would be able to come back alive. Even if Yu Qianqiu could come back alive, he did not know how long it would take. After all, it wasn't their disciple, so they couldn't keep waiting with the people of supporting Immortal Island. In fact, the 6 consecrators were a little anxious after waiting for 2 days. They could clearly see their positions on the spiritual compass, but they didn't dare to go down to look for them. The warning from the person who had injured them was still fresh in their ears. They had also tried to use spiritual sense to transmit their voice several times, but the demon ghost region was really strange. Once spiritual sense transmissions touched the floating Yin fog, they couldn't be transmitted. Thus, they thought that the person who had injured them could actually injure them with spiritual sense. They couldn't help being even more shocked and didn't dare to act rashly. "Hey! They're back!" One of the consecrators stared at the compass in front of him and said strangely. When they heard this, they surrounded the compass. The spiritual sense light spots on the compass were flashing over in a straight line. Guan Dinghai said in a deep voice, "How dare they fly over on their swords? It must be that bastard Yu Qianqiu's idea again. Don't they know that flying on swords in the demon ghost region is very dangerous? How does Wei Wu teach his disciple?" His words sounded like a reprimand, but there was also a sense of pride. It was as if he was telling everyone that only Yu Qianqiu dared to do this in the demon ghost region. The few consecrators smiled slightly, laughing at him for belittling and secretly praising. However, this disciple had really made the Guan clan and supporting Immortal Island famous in the various sections. Otherwise, why would the 6 consecrators be waiting for them here? The strange thing was that the 6 disciples didn't seem to encounter any danger along the way. They didn't slow down at all and were already approaching the mountain top. The few consecrators were also relieved, especially Ma Jiugu and Guan Weiwu. The 6 of them stared down together. The 6 streaks of light pierced through the dark clouds and landed near the mountaintop before disappearing. The 5 ghost generals who came with him cupped their hands together and said, "Mr. Yu, have a safe journey." Yu Qianqiu returned the gesture and said, "Thank you 5 big brothers. I won't say anything else. I, Yu Qianqiu, will remember this favor and will repay it in the future." The 5 ghost generals cupped their hands again, then turned into several streaks of black fiends and left. Their speed was much faster than when they had sent the group over, and they left with sharp whistles. With the cultivation of Yu Qianqiu and the others, they could not see the situation at the top of the mountain, but the 6 consecrators at the top of the mountain could see their situation. They were all stunned. To think that 5 Ghost King's final stage ghost cultivators would send them off personally. This was a little too much. Guan Dinghai grinned and scolded, "This stinking brat is really arrogant. He actually made 5 Ghost King's final stage ghost cultivators send him off, and there are 6 great consecrators greeting him on the mountain. I'm afraid that even if this old man came to the demon ghost domain, I wouldn't have such treatment." He didn't think that he had already been beaten out of the formation. Yu Qianqiu led the group to the outside of the formation at the top of the mountain. He didn't dare to barge in and shouted, "I wonder which seniors are inside." Disciple Yu Qianqiu requests an audience. Ma Jiugu struck a spell outside the formation and said in a deep voice, "Just walk in." Why is this voice so familiar? Yu Qianqiu was startled, and the group walked in. When they saw Ma Jiugu, they were startled again and thought, "Why is she here?" Ko Xuehua bowed and said, "Disciple Ko Xuehua greets the few consecrators." Amongst these people, only Ko Xuehua had seen a few exalted, and Yu Qianqiu and the others were utterly unable to recognize all of them. They immediately bowed as well, and all of them were extremely shocked in their hearts. Why are the 6 exalted of supporting Immortal Island here? Yu Qianqiu thought. Could it be that the experts of supporting Immortal Island who fought with the Demon King Aoli are these people? After a while, Yu Qianqiu felt that something was wrong. The gazes of this group of old fellows were revolving around him. It really made his hair stand on end. It was a far cry from being stared at by a group of beautiful women. "You are Yu Qianqiu?" Guan Dinghai shouted in a deep voice. "Damn it! Old bastard, did I offend you?" Yu Qianqiu bowed and said, "Yes, I am." "All right, this is not a place to stay for long. We can talk after we return." "Dinghai." Ma Jiugu poked her walking stick and shouted. Guan Dinghai bowed and didn't say anything. He glared at Yu Qianqiu and released a flying ship that was much smaller than the one the disciples came with. After the group boarded, Guan Dinghai personally controlled the flying ship. It gradually accelerated and disappeared in the blink of an eye. On the flying ship, Yu Qianqiu was hiding in the back. Seeing the others sitting cross-legged and cultivating, he sneered in his heart. "Even if you sit for a year, you won't be worth a few supreme-grade spirit stones of mine." Therefore, he fell asleep with peace of mind. Xiao Wanqing, on the other hand, looked at him from time to time with envy in her eyes. The night had passed, and the sea was sparkling with the rising sun. The flying ship suddenly slowed down, and Yu Qianqiu, who was sleeping soundly, was thrown to the front. Fortunately, he was stopped by Xiao Wanqing, who was always concerned about him, but he still fell on his face a few times. Yu Qianqiu crawled up and shouted angrily, "F***CK." Just as he said these two words, he realized that many pairs of eyes were looking at him. He immediately looked out of the ship and said embarrassedly, "We became supporting a mortal island so quickly? Haha, so fast, so fast." With that said, he sat down guiltily, thinking that they wouldn't understand the first two words. Although the crowd didn't understand what he meant by the first two words, they didn't think that it was anything good. So no one paid attention to it and just smiled. Xiao Wanqing covered her mouth and couldn't stop laughing. Guan Dinghai, who was at the bow of the ship, looked back and thought, "This is really out of control. I've been flying the ship for a night, and you're really not polite. You actually slept for a night. I'll let you sleep." When the 6 high officials returned, the welcoming scene of Fuxian Island was quite grand. Feng Xiangtian led a group of elders to welcome them in front of the main hall of Penglai Pavilion. When everyone got off the ship, Yu Qianqiu was still hiding at the back. Seeing that there was no need for these disciples, he found Guan Weiwu in the welcoming crowd and quickly ran to greet, "Master, I'm back." When he saw Ferdinand beside his master, he greeted, "Elder Fei." Guan Weiwu patted his shoulder and laughed, "It's good that you're back, it's good that you're back." "Not bad, not bad." Regarding his disciples' glorious deeds, he, as the master, also benefited greatly. The group of people who came back earlier had already spread the news about Yu Qianqiu in the Demon Ghost region, and almost everyone in Fuxian Island knew about it. These 2 days, Guan Weiwu was so happy that he couldn't even close his mouth. Ko Xuehua and the other 3 disciples of Wanfen Garden naturally came to greet Ferdinand. This Ferdinand was also very happy. Although there were only 3 people from Wanfen Garden, they all came back alive. Especially when all the nascent soul stage disciples of Fuxian Island were annihilated. Only Ko Xuehua of Wanfen Garden was unharmed. Speaking of this, it was really glorious. In fact, Ko Xuehua and the other 2 were also very lucky. Originally, Ferdinand sent them to protect Yu Qianqiu, but the result was unexpected. If it wasn't for Yu Qianqiu, they really didn't know if they could come back alive. "Old Guan, this is your disciple Yu Qianqiu." "Not bad." "Elder Guan, this is your disciple Yu Qianqiu." "Not bad." Elders from various branches constantly came to greet Guan Weiwu, but their eyes were all staring at Yu Qianqiu. Guan Weiwu kept laughing and said, "Yes, yes." Yu Qianqiu kept nodding and bowing as he called out the name of an elder. "Weiwu, come with me for a while." Suddenly, someone walked over and said coldly. Guan Weiwu's smile suddenly froze on his face, and he said timidly, "Father." Then he followed that person. Damn. That old bastard is actually Master's father? Yu Qianqiu was also stunned. Isn't this the consecrator who controls the spaceship? Thinking of a white-haired old man calling another white-haired old man father, Yu Qianqiu had goosebumps all over his body. He thought to himself, I have to quickly refine the elixir of youth. It's still good to be young. He stealthily disappeared into the crowd. Chapter 131. A ray of light flashed by, and Yu Qianqiu returned to the courtyard that he hadn't seen for many days. In fact, this round trip to the demon ghost region didn't take more than 10 days. He released his divine sense to check, but Ling Feng and the others weren't there. They probably went to work. He returned to his room, closed the door, and disappeared. When Guan Yu and Chen Feng saw Yu Qianqiu, they both called out with a sad expression, "Boss." Something was wrong? Yu Qianqiu nodded with a smile and walked to their side. He saw nearly 400 people gathered in a depression in front of him. They were the disciples from the various sects that he had brought from the demon ghost region. All the men and women were sitting on the ground with dispirited spirits. Their natal primordial spirits had been stripped away by Suzhen, so their spirits weren't much better. These two fellows probably thought of him when they saw them, and it felt like they were in the same boat. Yu Qianqiu frowned, turned his head and shouted, "Don't think too much. Don't you know what kind of person Sister Bai is? By the way, Chen Feng, have you planted the spirit herbs I asked you to?" "Yes," Chen Feng replied. "I want to refine a cauldron of pills. Help me get 3 portions." Yu Qianqiu nodded. After Chen Feng left with the order, he looked at the disciples in front of him, pinched his chin, and began to ponder. Not long after, Chen Feng brought him the spirit herbs. Yu Qianqiu's eyes swept over the two of them. He was silent for a long time, making the two of them a little uneasy. Then he said with a very serious expression, "There are some important things for you to do. I've been thinking about this for a long time, and I've been very worried." "What are you worried about?" "I'm worried about whether you two can do it." "Why worry?" "Because you two are worthy of my trust." After saying this, the 3 of them fell silent. After a while, Guan Yu and Chen Feng exchanged glances, and Chen Feng said excitedly, "Boss, if you have anything to say, we'll do our best." Yu Qianqiu patted him on the shoulder and said, "This matter is of great importance, and it is indeed related to our future. Forget it. Let's not talk about this for now. I'll try a batch of pills first, then I'll come back and have a good talk with you too." Only the two of them were left with strange feelings. Yu Qianqiu teleported directly into the omphalos. The misty array immediately made way for him when he arrived. After he entered, the array closed up again. It was Bai Suzhen who was controlling it from inside. Ever since she had obtained a pile of these things, Bai Suzhen had not gone out at all. She had been guarding the Adumbra flower all this time, afraid that it would be stolen. Yu Qianqiu could not help but feel excited as he looked at the huge pile of top-grade spirit stones sparkling with purple light. This was his fortune. He grabbed a handful and scattered them. This was money. "Sis, let's begin," Yu Qianqiu said to Bai Suzhen after enjoying himself to his heart's content. The latter nodded. Her usually gentle and quiet face was flushed with excitement. For a woman, youth was not always an irresistible temptation. Yu Qianqiu climbed onto the black lump and stared at the Adumbra flower carefully. He had not looked at it carefully ever since he found it. Legend had it that it took 1,000 years to grow a single strand, but there were actually close to 200 strands. Didn't that mean that this Adumbra flower had grown for close to 200,000 years? It was a bit difficult to make a move. Close to 200,000 years. What kind of concept was that? It was a sin. Yu Qianqiu silently muttered, "Sin, sin," as he stretched out his fingers and gently plucked out 3 strands. After jumping down, he waved the white velvet strands in front of Bai Suzhen and said with a bitter smile, 3,000 years for such a small thing." Bai Suzhen nodded and suddenly asked doubtfully, "Is 3 enough? Should I pluck some more?" "It's enough. It's enough." Yu Qianqiu hurriedly waved his hand and said, 1 strand for each set of spiritual herbs is enough. Sis, don't look down on this little thing. This is a heavenly treasure that only grows a single strand every 1,000 years. It's not good to use too many of these pills. 1 strand is just right. The two of them exited the formation and entered a small cave. Deep underground, the temperature gradually rose and they could vaguely see the red, rolling lava in front of them. The two of them turned into a newly excavated stone room. Flames were raging inside and a hole in the center of the room was spewing out raging flames. Bai Suzhen waved her large sleeves and a pill furnace beside her flew up, just in time to suppress the fire. The stone room immediately darkened. Yu Qianqiu took out the pill recipe jade archive and found the Rui pill among the top-grade pills. He repeated the pill recipe that he had already memorized and compared it in his mind. Then, he practiced it a few times in his mind. After making sure that there were no mistakes, the pill furnace was almost ready to heat up. The lid of the furnace opened and a strand of adumbra flower was thrown into the furnace along with several spiritual herbs. Yu Qianqiu immediately sealed the top of the furnace and concentrated on refining. Suddenly, he noticed a strand of divine sense attached to the walls of the furnace. Needless to say, it was definitely by Suzhen's. There was no one else here either. Not long after, the various spiritual herbs were refined into sparkling liquids of various colors. When that strand of adumbra flower was refined, it immediately turned into a tiny drop of spiritual liquid that shone brightly. A heavenly treasure was indeed a heavenly treasure. Ordinary spiritual herbs couldn't compare to it. Yu Qianqiu steadied his mind and immediately became as calm as still water. He used his divine sense to control the airflow and the various spiritual liquids, starting a magnificent performance. Light and shadow crisscrossed and intersected like a dream. Bai Suzhen was mesmerized as she watched. Although she wasn't proficient in alchemy, she had traveled the cultivation world for many years and more or less knew a little about alchemy. She had never seen such a bold and unconstrained refining method. It was simply inconceivable. It wasn't until the performance in the furnace was over, and the pills were formed and being roasted that Bai Suzhen leisurely retracted that strand of divine sense. Her bright eyes looked towards Yu Qianqiu, who had his eyes closed and was meditating. A trace of infatuation flashed in her eyes. Big sister, catch the pills. Yu Qianqiu slammed his palm into the furnace lid and in an instant, 10 balls of light rushed out of the furnace. Bai Suzhen, who had regained her senses, opened her slender palm and the 10 balls of light drew a beautiful arc in the air before gathering in her palm. Yu Qianqiu immediately ran over with a smile on his face. When he suddenly saw the dazzling balls of light in Bai Suzhen's palm, he was immediately stunned. He took one of the pills from her hand. Even he himself was taken aback. The Rui pill between his fingers was so blurry that it was almost impossible to see what it looked like inside. It was shrouded in a layer of pill halo. The pill halo was completely different from the pill halo he had seen before. It was actually a dazzling rainbow glow. It could probably be used as a light source in a dark place. Bai Suzhen covered her mouth in shock. Yu Qianqiu smiled foolishly and said, "Big sister, it should be a success?" The former nodded vigorously. If this wasn't a success, then what was? Although the pill recipe Jade Archive didn't record this phenomenon after the pills were formed, anyone could tell that this furnace of pills was quite successful. Yu Qianqiu didn't have much experience with this kind of situation. He attributed it to the miraculous effects of the adumbra flower. However, he didn't know that the pill refining method he had unintentionally invented was already qualified to establish his own sect. He had to admit that it was a stroke of good fortune. However, a certain someone was completely unaware of it. He continued to work hard and produced another 2 batches of pills that were 100% successful. From Yu Qianqiu's point of view, this wasn't strange at all. He had never refined a failed pill before. If the seniors of the pill sect from thousands of years ago were to find out about this, they would probably be so ashamed that they wouldn't be able to show their faces. Chapter 132. He placed the 2 batches of completed pills into his storage pouch. Bai Suzhen held the 10 rainbow glow pills in her palms and handed them over. Yu Qianqiu was taken aback and gently blocked them with his hand. Then, he looked at her and shook his head lovingly. He said softly, "This pill is called the Rui pill. It's one of the best quality pills in the elixir recipe Jade Archive. Its effects are extraordinary. It has the miraculous effect of detoxifying and maintaining youthfulness. It's the best pill for women to maintain their skin. Sister, it's just right for you to keep. Besides, the first batch of pills was originally meant for you." Bai Suzhen's eyes were filled with tenderness. She didn't say anything and simply nodded her head. Then, she put the pills into her waist pouch. With a wave of her sleeve, the pill furnace flew up and landed in a corner of the stone room. In an instant, the room was filled with a fiery red color. The 2 of them tacitly walked out. Yu Qianqiu stood at the peak of the mountain and watched as Bai Suzhen fluttered on the cliff wall of the deep valley. With a wave of her hand, she wrote the words "Forbidden Area" with an imposing aura. Her graceful figure once again twisted in the air and gently landed beside him. A cool breeze blew, and her beautiful hair fluttered. The two of them stood there silently, quietly looking in the direction of the bamboo house. Sister, I like the feeling of standing on a high place. Sister, shall we build a house on this mountain? Yu Qianqiu turned his head and stared at the peerless beauty beside him for a while. His heart was at peace. Not long after, Guan Yu and Chen Feng, who were summoned by his divine sense, arrived on their swords. The two of them landed and called out in unison, "Boss!" Yu Qianqiu smiled and took out 2 purple crystals, handing them to the two of them. He said, "These are very precious. I almost lost my life in the demon domain to get them. It's not much. Each of you can take 10. Bai Suzhen's eyes were still calm. Chen Feng looked at the purple crystals in his hand and scratched his head. Boss, what is this? Guan Yu seemed to be in disbelief. He looked at the purple crystal in his hand and touched it. After a long time, he cried out involuntarily, "Is this a top-grade spirit stone?" Ah! Chen Feng hurriedly held it in front of his eyes and said with widened eyes, "Could it be a top-grade spirit stone that can be exchanged for 10,000 top-grade spirit stones?" Not bad. Yu Qianqiu laughed and scolded, "2 useless things, aren't they just a few stones? Quickly put them away. I still have something to tell you too." The two of them carefully put them away in their storage pouches. Chen Feng's eyes were slightly red as he muttered, "Earlier, you said that you nearly lost your life to get this. Now you say it's just a few stones. Brat, you've learned to talk back to me." Yu Qianqiu jokingly scolded. As he spoke, a rainbow-colored light flashed in his hand, and he handed one to each of them, saying, "This is the good stuff, I just refined it." The two of them held the rainbow-colored light in their hands and looked at each other. Guan Yu said blankly, "Boss, what is this?" Yu Qianqiu laughed and said, "Rui pill, a pill that can make you look young. Any scars on your body, as long as you take it, I guarantee that they will immediately disappear and you will be as good as new. It can also give you a physique that is immune to all poisons. It is also refined from the treasures I obtained from the demon domain this time. Look young? A physique that is immune to poisons? That is really a treasure." The two of them were pleasantly surprised and seemed to be considering whether they should take it now. "All right, put away the treasures first. The two of you have taken your things. It is time to be obedient and work." Yu Qianqiu pretended to be unhappy. He said it so directly, but the two of them did not mind. They smiled and put away the treasures, then bowed and waited for orders. Yu Qianqiu suddenly waved his hand and pointed, "I want to build a palace on top of this mountain. Now, I want to ask the two of you, do you have the confidence to build it for me?" Ah! The two of them were shocked and looked around. To build a palace on top of a mountain, how big of a project would that be? Though their abilities were thousands of times stronger than mortals, with their abilities alone, they really did not know how long it would take to build it. The two of them looked at each other. This treasure was really hard to obtain. Guan Yu bitterly smiled. "Boss, it's not that. It's just that our abilities are limited." Chen Feng also nodded. "You two idiots." Yu Qianqiu pointed down the mountain and said, "I brought so many people here for you to use, what are you afraid of?" Ah! The two of them were shocked. Guan Yu bitterly smiled again. "Boss, you know that the weakest of those people are at the completion level. How can we command them?" Humph! Bai Suzhen slowly turned her head and stared at the two of them. She calmly said, "With me here, just order them around. If they don't listen, just kill them." Her tone was very calm, but the coldness in her words was very easy to sense. Ah! The 3 men were all stunned. Yu Qianqiu scratched his head and smiled. "You two just do as I say. If they don't listen, I'll deal with them. But you have to know your limits. If they can repent, you have to give them a chance. You can't kill them all. These people are still useful to me." Guan Yu and Chen Feng looked at each other and solemnly said, "Sister Bai, we understand." They directly ignored Yu Qianqiu's words, causing the latter to keep signaling them with his eyes. It couldn't be helped. To Yu Qianqiu, Bai Suzhen's prestige in Utopia was very important. When he wasn't around, he needed someone he could trust to take care of everything. He could only purse his lips and say, "As long as the two of you know what to do." As for the blueprints and materials needed to build the palace, I'll think of a way to get them as soon as possible. You don't have to worry about that. There's another important matter. You two have to be mentally prepared. Seeing that he was talking about serious matters, the two of them stopped laughing and looked at him seriously. Yu Qiancho solemnly said, Yun Chong, get rid of all the women among the 400 people. There are many people in Utopia, and things are complicated. It won't do if you don't have some people under you. Those women will listen to you. As for the others, I'll leave them to you. At this point, he paused and stared at Guan Yu with sparkling eyes. He shouted, Yun Chong, haven't you always wanted to lead an army to the battlefield like Guan Yu? All right. I'll give you my full support and give you this opportunity. I want to build an army of the cultivation world, an invincible army of the cultivation world. These hundreds of people will be your touchstone. Do you have the guts to take on this responsibility? If you can't, say it as soon as possible so that I can find someone else. The moment he said that, Guan Yu and Chen Feng were shocked. Oh my God! What was he trying to do? Why did he want to build an army of the cultivation world? On the other hand, Bai Suzhen stood there calmly. Yu Qiancho continued to stare at Guan Yu with a burning gaze. To him, the existence of an army required a strong financial power. Now that the conditions were ripe, a large number of supreme-grade spirit stones would suffice. Even if it was not enough, as long as the army was built, there would naturally be a way to make money. Wasn't there a saying like robbing the rich to give to the poor? At first, Guan Yu's blood was boiling, but he did not immediately agree. After calming down a bit, he slowly said, Boss, I have the guts, and I really want to take on this responsibility. However, I've never done such a thing before. I'm afraid I'll ruin Boss's big plan. It's good that you know how to think carefully. I was really afraid that you would agree without thinking. If that happened, I really wouldn't dare to let you do this. Now it seems that I didn't misjudge you. Yu Qiancho smiled and patted his shoulder. Yun Chong, there's a first time for everything. As long as you do it diligently, there's nothing you can't do. Perhaps you'll have to take more detours, but it doesn't matter. I believe that you can do it well. Don't worry. I know a little about leading troops. When the time comes, I can give you some ideas. That's settled. From today onwards, those few hundred people will be your subordinates. Don't care if they're core formation or original infant. You only need to know one thing. They're all your soldiers. With Yu Qiancho's words as a foundation, Guan Yu immediately nodded his head with great confidence. At the side, Chen Feng's face was full of envy. Which man didn't have the dream of galloping on the battlefield? Yu Qiancho fiercely stared at him and shouted, What are you looking at? You also have something to do. Tell me first if you have the confidence to do it. If you don't, I won't bother to talk to you. There are many people out there. Yes. Chen Feng patted his chest and said passionately, Boss, if you have something to say, I'll definitely do it well. In his opinion, since Yu Qiancho dared to do something as crazy as building an army in the cultivation world, the mission he gave him must be extraordinary. If he didn't participate, he would be letting himself down. Chapter 133. That's good. Yu Qiancho smiled and said, Chen Feng, I'm sure you don't want your family's talisman crafting skills to be lost, right? Chen Feng nodded and said, Of course. Good. Yu Qiancho stared at him with a powerful gaze and said, Then I'll let you become a master of talisman crafting, alchemy, and blacksmithing in one. Chen Feng scratched his head and said in surprise, Boss, what do you mean? Yu Qiancho looked at the place where the various sect's disciples gathered and said leisurely, A strong army must have a strong logistic support. Without logistic support, it's bullshit to build an army. In the cultivation world, alchemy and magic tools are indispensable. I'll find some subordinates for you. Your task is to ensure the necessities of Yun Chong's army. As for alchemy and blacksmithing, I'll prepare them for you. Don't worry. After hearing that, Guan Yu nodded in agreement and looked at Chen Feng with hope. But the latter had a troubled expression. That's what I'm doing. Then wouldn't I be doing odd jobs for Guan Yu? Boss, I also want to lead an army. You should leave the logistics to someone else. Yu Qiancho glared and shouted angrily, Then why did you agree so readily just now? Are you making fun of me? No. Chen Feng quickly waved his hand and explained, I didn't know that boss was talking about this, so... So what? Yu Qianqiu narrowed his eyes and interrupted him in a deep voice. I'll give you 2 choices. 1. A man should do what he promised. 2. Pack up your things and go back to your 100 Flowers Valley to sell talismans. I can't tolerate a great bargaining god like you here. They had known each other for a long time. Every time Yu Qianqiu narrowed his eyes and spoke, it meant that he was really angry. Guan Yu looked at Chen Feng worriedly. After a long time, they had developed feelings for each other, and they were also familiar with each other. The 2 of them had a tacit understanding when they worked together. From a selfish point of view, he still hoped that Chen Feng would be the one to work with him. Of course, he had also placed himself in the main position, while Chen Feng was only a supporting character. Aye. Seeing that Yu Qianqiu was really angry, Chen Feng hurriedly said, "Aye" a few times. Finally, he stomped his feet and said, "Boss, don't be angry. I'll listen to you." "I wouldn't dare." Yu Qianqiu coldly glanced at him and said, "I, Yu Qianqiu, want brothers who help me sincerely. Don't force yourself to help my brother just to give me face." "I won't force you. Just go and do what you need to do. I, Yu Qianqiu, have misjudged you." No. Boss, I'm sincere. Don't misunderstand." Chen Feng defended himself. The experience of setting up the stall in the 100 Flowers Valley had left a deep impression on him. At that time, he was so poor that he didn't even have enough to pay for the stall. Now, his storage bag was filled with top-quality spirit stones worth 100,000 high-quality spirit stones. Moreover, his boss was an idol to him. "Are you sure?" Yu Qianqiu asked suspiciously. Chen Feng patted his chest and said, "I'm absolutely sincere. Sister Bai is here to testify." Yu Qianqiu's face immediately changed into a smile. He patted his shoulder and said, "Good job. I knew I didn't choose the wrong person. Don't worry. One day, you'll find out that your choice was right." The 3 men finally had smiles on their faces. The little misunderstanding just now was gone in an instant. Yu Qianqiu patted their shoulders at the same time and said, "That's right. Only when you're good and I'm good will everyone be good. All right, you guys go get ready. I still have something to do outside." Then, he turned to Bai Suzhen and said, "Sister, I'll be leaving first." The latter nodded and Yu Qianqiu disappeared in front of the 3 of them. As soon as he came out of the room, he saw Ling Feng and the other 2. The 3 of them were already used to Yu Qianqiu's mysterious appearance. They immediately stood up and greeted, "Yu Shu. Sai. These 3 unlucky kids are still in the Qi training stage. I really want to help you guys get out of this abyss of suffering. But it's better to grind it out. The rainbow after the storm is the most beautiful. At that time, people will truly know what it means to be grateful." Yu Qianqiu waved his hand, indicating that there was no need for formalities. He smiled and said, "You're all back. I didn't see you guys on the way here, so I took a nap. Is everyone all right?" Ling Feng smiled bitterly and said, "What's good about it? It's still the same." "I don't think so." Yu Qianqiu glanced at the 3 of them and said with a meaningful smile, "Deacon Yan is staying in the demon domain and won't be able to return. I believe the situation will improve." He then added in his heart, "This daddy has personally blasted his head into smithereens, so he definitely won't be able to return." Ling Feng smiled non-committally and said, "Let's not talk about him. It's just spoiling the mood." On the other hand, everyone in supporting Immortal Island knows about Martial Uncle saving the disciples of various sects from the hands of the Ghost King. Even the 3 of us benefited from living with you. Many people came to us to ask about you. Martial Uncle, tell us about what happened in Demonic Ghost region. Yu Qianqiu was stunned. He didn't know that he was already famous. He then waved his hand and said, "I was just lucky. There's really nothing to talk about. That's it. I still have something to do. Let's talk next time." As he spoke, he had already flown away on his sword. Sigh. Looking at the departing figure, Ling Feng and the other 2 sighed at the same time. When they came back to their senses, they looked at each other and shook their heads with a bitter smile. They couldn't help it. The gap between them and him was getting bigger and bigger. There was no need to mention the things that happened in the past. Every time Yu Qianqiu came to Wanfen Garden, Ferdinand always had a sullen face as if he owed him a lot of money. This time, the sun rose from the west, and he kept nodding and smiling as soon as he saw Yu Qianqiu. There were 2 reasons. First, Xueqi and the others had told him in detail about their experience in demonic ghost region. It could be said that the 3 disciples of Wanfen Garden were saved by Yu Qianqiu. Just because of this, he was embarrassed to show his sullen face to Ferdinand. Second, he finally had an explanation for his daughter. But in Yu Qianqiu's eyes, no matter how he looked at it, he felt that there was a conspiracy. So, he tried to say something that usually made Ferdinand angry. "Elder Ferdinand, I'm a little hungry. Do you have anything to eat here?" Ferdinand suddenly smiled a little awkwardly. This kid really treated this place as a restaurant. His face twitched as he said, "There is something at the back." It's not right to agree so readily. Yu Qianqiu also said for the first time, "Thank you, Elder Ferdinand." Then, he followed him to the back of the main hall. As a result, as soon as he turned the corner, he met Furong, who came after hearing the sound. She hurried and shouted, "Yu Qianqiu." Yu Qianqiu waved his hand and said, "Ha, senior sister, I'm hungry." Furong nodded repeatedly and turned to run back. She probably went to prepare something to eat. Ferdinand's face completely darkened. Yu Qianqiu glanced at it and heaved a sigh of relief. He was in the mood to eat first. Ignoring him, he took a familiar turn to Furong's place. Furong was busy putting more food on the table. Of course, he sat down without hesitation and ate to his heart's content. It would be a waste if he didn't eat. Ferdinand, who came in later, stared at him for a while and suddenly asked, "I heard that you made a lot of noise in the monster ghost region this time. Even Ghost General drank and chatted with you?" Furong tilted her small ears to listen. Yu Qianqiu also had something on his mind. As he ate, he replied, "It can't be said to be drinking and chatting merrily. We just drank a few cups. Ghost General is too polite." Ghost General is too polite? Ferdinand's face twitched involuntarily. He had also trained in the monster ghost region. How could he not know the reputation of Ghost General? He was an overlord. Now that he had confirmed the rumors, he was inexplicably shocked. He really couldn't understand what was so good about this guy. His daughter was obedient to him, but why would someone like Ghost General also listen to him? He paused and asked again, "I heard that you went deep into the hinterland of the monster ghost region and collected many spiritual herbs that even the disciples of Wanfen Garden have never seen before. Don't you know the rules of Fuxian Island? All the spiritual herbs collected in the monster ghost region must be handed over to the sect. Of course, we won't let you hand them over for nothing. The sect will give you a certain reward. Take them out and let me have a look." No wonder I felt strange. It turns out that you are after my spiritual herbs. I can't give them to you. They are all spiritual herbs with names on the elixir prescriptions. I still have a use for them. Yu Qianqiu raised his head and smiled at Furong. "Senior sister, can you go out for a while? I have something to say to Elder Fei." Furong pinched the corner of her clothes and turned it over and over again. She was obviously a little unwilling, but in the end, she still went out obediently. Ferdinand didn't know what he was going to do. After waiting for a long time, he heard him say lightly, "I just used them today." Immediately, he was so angry that he pointed his finger and shouted, "How dare you? Do you still have any respect for the sect rules?" He was indeed angry. Every principal elder of Wanfen Garden was proud of being able to add a few spiritual herbs to Wanfen Garden. This guy had collected so many rare spiritual herbs but used them privately. How could he not be angry? "Why are you so noisy?" Yu Qianqiu suddenly stood up and smashed the chicken drumstick in his hand on the ground. He pointed at him and shouted angrily, "Do you think I feel good every time I come here to eat because of your face? Do you know why I didn't agree to let Jiugu stay in the mulberry garden? Do you really think I'm stupid? Don't I know that mulberry garden is better than the alchemy pavilion? Do you think I'm comfortable in the alchemy pavilion? Do you think I'm a genius for creating my own alchemy technique in alchemy? That's what I often spend more than 10 days to figure out. Why is that? Because I saw that you, as a useless father, wanted to personally refine a good pill to treat senior sister's face. So I risked my life to go deep into the hinterland to collect spiritual herbs even though I knew that the demon ghost region was very dangerous. Now that I've put in so much effort and thought, God didn't disappoint my painstaking efforts and finally refined a healing pill. I couldn't wait to come here, but I was ridiculed by you. I finally know what it means to be cruel and unscrupulous. In fact, Furong didn't go far and just stayed outside. When she heard this, she covered her mouth with tears and tried hard not to cry out. Fei Dinan was also confused by his extreme reaction at first, but at this time, he said in a trembling voice, "You mean you've already refined a pill that can treat Furong's face?" Yu Qianqiu was still not satisfied with the scolding and said sternly, "I've never seen such a heartless thing like you. I did collect a lot of spiritual herbs in the demon ghost region, but I didn't give them to the sect. I used them to refine pills. So what? I even gave up my life for senior sister. So why would I be afraid of an old man like you?" As he spoke, he took out a 7-colored spirit pill from his bag of holding and shouted, "I don't have any spirit herbs, only a refined spirit pill. Old thing, if you have the ability, then go against your conscience and hand this spirit pill over to the sect. I want to see if your conscience has really been eaten by a dog." Chapter 134. The soft colorful glow of the Rui pill lit up the entire room slightly, and a faint and unique fragrance slowly spread. Ferdinand's pupils suddenly widened. He took a step forward and directly grabbed the elixir in his hand. He put it in front of his eyes to look at it. After a while he snorted and said, "It's really an elixir. This elixir is dizzy." His face was full of disbelief. Yu Qianqiu looked on coldly, and a smile flashed unintentionally in his eyes, but it disappeared slightly. At this time, Furong slowly walked in and walked to Yu Qianqiu's side. She held his arm tightly with both hands and stared at Ferdinand with extreme resentment. Yu Qianqiu felt the elasticity on his arm and looked at her with some surprise. He did not expect that a girl who was as thin as firewood would actually have a peerless treasure. Some things really needed to be understood in depth, and it could not be seen just from the surface. At the same time, he also noticed the resentment in her eyes. Yu Qianqiu could not help but open his mouth slightly. He looked back at Ferdinand, who was still amazed, and said in his heart, "Old man, I'm sorry. I just want you to owe me a big favor so that I can extort something in the future. I really did not mean to sow discord between you father and daughter." "Hey." He raised his hand and gently patted Furong's little hand that was a little pale. "This elixir can really cure Furong's face." Halfway through his words, Ferdinand looked up and found that his daughter was holding the man's arm in front of her chest. His face was distorted. That place is not for other men to touch. Taking advantage of someone else's daughter in front of him, the pressure he was under was really not ordinary. Yu Qianqiu quickly diverted his attention and sneered, "Don't you want to use the sect rules to suppress me? Who cares if it can be cured or not? Just give it to the sect directly." When Ferdinand heard this, he immediately noticed that his daughter was looking at him with an almost resentful gaze. He trembled all over and almost dropped the elixir in his hand. He stuttered, Furong, I didn't mean that. Take it and try it. Maybe it will work." As he spoke, he handed the elixir over with trembling hands. However, Furong held Yu Qianqiu's arm tightly and took a step back. She bit her lips hard and stared at Ferdinand. The latter felt his hair stand on end, and his Adam's apple bobbed up and down. Even with his cultivation base, there was a thin layer of sweat on his forehead. In the end, he looked at Yu Qianqiu pleadingly. "What a pitiful parent. Old thing, now you know the consequences of challenging me." Things started because of him, so he had to find a way to resolve it. Otherwise, Ferdinand would hate him to death. Yu Qianqiu turned around and grabbed the little hand on his arm, whispering, "Senior Marshal sister, since your father wants you to give it a try, you should give it a try." Ferdinand's mind was already in a mess, and his body was covered in cold sweat. Hearing that, he nodded at Hibiscus. However, Hibiscus shook her head hard and said, "I don't have a father, I don't want to cure it." It was rare for her to speak, but when she did, it was very scary. Yu Qianqiu was shocked to find that there was a touch of red on her lips. It was obvious that she had bitten it just now. He could not help but be stunned and a little stunned. Hearing that, Ferdinand suddenly felt as if he had been struck by lightning. His face instantly turned pale, and he staggered back a few steps. That touch of red almost broke his heart. "Damn it! This is too much. If this goes on, old Phil will fight with me after this." Yu Qianqiu immediately pulled his arm out of that plump and short-of-breath chest. He took the elixir from Ferdinand's hand and gave it to Hibiscus. He said softly, "Senior Marshal Sister, your father really didn't mean that. Don't misunderstand. It will be good for you to take it." "No." Hibiscus spat out a word forcefully. She shook her head and retreated until she leaned against the wall. She still shook her head and refused. He had never seen this girl have the courage to refuse anyone. He did not expect that she would refuse so unhesitatingly today. She must be really sad. Yu Qianqiu suddenly felt that he had gone too far today. There was really no need to hurt her. He let out a depressed breath and said in a deep voice, "Senior Marshal Sister, do you believe me?" "Yes." Hibiscus looked at him with her bright eyes and nodded. "Then do you believe what I said?" "Yes." "Good." Yu Qianqiu walked over and pulled Ferdinand over with one hand. He pointed at him and said, "Then I will tell you. Look carefully. This person is your biological father. He is the person who treats you the best in the world. No one can treat you better than him, including me. You have to believe that everything he does is for your good. Senior Marshal Sister. Can you understand?" Hibiscus did not say anything. She neither nodded nor shook her head. Ferdinand, who was casually grabbed like a child, looked at Yu Qianqiu with gratitude instead. "Senior Marshal Sister, this elixir was refined for you. It was really not easy for me to refine it. I really spent a lot of effort. Could it be that Senior Marshal Sister really has the heart to let my efforts go to waste?" As Yu Qianqiu spoke, he sent the fragrant elixir with colorful rays of light in his hand to her. It was one thing to help Ferdinand be a good person once, but he still had to be a good person himself. This was his habit. Facing Yu Qianqiu's extremely sincere gaze, Hibiscus hesitated. Finally, she summoned up her courage and timidly reached out her little hand to take the elixir. She lowered her head and gently put it into her mouth. With a slight gurgling sound, she swallowed it. The two men breathed a sigh of relief and glanced at each other with relief. Ferdinand's excitement could be clearly seen on his face. The two of them looked at Hibiscus again. To be honest, Yu Qianqiu really did not know whether this elixir would have the miraculous effect described on the Jade Archive. This was also the reason why he had not taken the elixir yet. Hibiscus was also silently feeling the changes of the elixir in her stomach. Just like that, the three of them hugged each other by the wall, not daring to breathe heavily. Fortunately, there were no outsiders to see this strange scene. Otherwise, if two men were to force a woman against the wall, anyone's imagination would run wild. After an hour or so, Hibiscus's body finally showed some changes. First, her whole body turned red. Then on her face, hands, neck, and all the exposed skin pores gradually oozed out a jet-black liquid. A foul smell began to spread in the room. Hibiscus looked at Yu Qianqiu with a somewhat panicked expression. She kept wiping the dirt oozing out of the back of her hands on her clothes. Yu Qianqiu's face twitched a little. Ferdinand, on the other hand, shouted in surprise, "Hibiscus, don't move. The elixir is taking effect." After all, he was very experienced. He could see the reason at a glance. Sure enough, not long after, the foul smell began to be dispelled by the delicate fragrance emitted from Hibiscus's body. Then, the fragrance became stronger and stronger. Hibiscus's stomach began to make gurgling sounds, and she seemed to be restless. Ferdinand suddenly revealed a look of realization. He slapped his forehead, turned his head and anxiously shouted, "Somebody, somebody! Somebody, come quickly!" Two female disciples quickly came over. They did not know what had happened to make the elder-in-chief so urgently summon them. Without waiting for them to salute, Ferdinand ordered the two of them, "You take Hibiscus to the toilet to detoxify. You quickly go and prepare a large amount of hot water for her bath. Be quick." When the two of them saw Hibiscus, who was wrapped in a layer of black to the point that she could no longer be identified, they immediately understood. One of them left in a flash, while the other carried Hibiscus out without any fear of getting dirty. Ferdinand was obviously very excited. He kept clapping his fists and walking back and forth in the room. Detoxify in the toilet? Damn. The side effect of this Rui pill is even worse than the foundation building pill. I wonder if Big Sister has taken it yet. With this thought in mind, Yu Qianqiu's divine sense unconsciously entered Utopia. Very soon, he locked onto a graceful figure by the distant lake. In the clear lake, the delicate body that was as fair as jade created layers of ripples. She got up from the water and walked to the shore. Her peerless face was extremely pure and serene. The water droplets that slid down her plump and upright breasts splashed onto the lake surface bit by bit. The 2 spots of red were mesmerizing, and countless traces of water slid down her smooth skin and elongated. Suddenly, her 2 jade-like arms pushed her wet black hair to the back, and her graceful figure was immediately revealed. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.